A wee disclaimer here, we're not film experts. We're doing this for fun and to try and shine a light on films which are seen as rotten on movie review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes, and to poke fun at them as well. It's a chance to highlight that the critical consensus isn't always everything.
We'd also like to remind everyone that we're about to go over all the film's details, including the plot, so there will be spoilers. Also, we just want to mention it's okay to disagree with our opinion. If you do, you can tell us and become part of the discussion. With that in mind, thanks for joining us and enjoy!
It's turtle time!
It is turtle time.
Welcome to Rank Rotten, a Rotten Movies podcast with me, Mikey.
And me, Kat.
We're the podcast that's all like, that film's rotten, but is it though? Maybe we should check it out.
Or, it is rotten, but we like it anyway.
Or, it is rotten and we hate it.
Sometimes.
Listen, I've never actually hated a movie that we've done yet.
I've not hated movies that we've done yet, but I have hated movies.
That's also true. Hate is a strong word.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, very true.
Even Forever My Girl had some redeeming features.
Mm-hmm.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. It's definitely the worst film I've seen.
Yeah, it probably did. I think I said some stuff I liked about that.
Definitely. I can't recall it or what it was about or who was in it.
There's about a country singer.
Oh,
Liam
yeah.
Page. Oh my God, I remember that. So yeah, today we are talking about the Turtles. So this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, 1990 live action movie.
Yeah, which must have been quite seminal in your childhood.
Massively. More so the second one. We had that one on tape.
Ah, okay.
Official tape. Not even taped off the telly or pirated. It was a real tape.
Ooh, get you.
I don't know where it came to. I think we kind of got it from someone else and then I think we had it right up until Mum got rid of all the tapes not that long ago. So I had it for ages.
It was a prime present to give people though, a tape or a CD.
Actually, we've said last time, or I think when we talked about Evolution, it was a special event to get a tape or a DVD later on, wasn't it?
It was.
I still feel like that when we get a Blu-ray sometimes, you know?
Yeah, especially it's a bit more special now.
It is.
In some ways.
Blu-ray quality is just unmatched. 4K obviously, but is great. But Blu-ray quality just in itself, standard Blu-ray, is great.
And you know what? Like, I love streaming, don't get me wrong, but when you're like, it's having a bad day, you know, when it's buffering all the time, or like you get stuck in that like forgotten password loop or whatever.
Or the quality just wavers, which sometimes happens as well.
Yeah.
Not so much to us, but it can happen and it's a bit of a pain.
When you can just get up, put a disc in, and then that's you're away.
So we're actually doing this because a friend of the show, Rob, actually requested that we do Turtles 3 specifically.
Ah.
And I said, well, actually, why don't we do all 3 because they're all rotten?
Which won't come to a shock to many people.
No, like next week will be a different film. It won't be Turtles 2.
Yeah.
Because we're going to spread them out a wee bit.
I think that's
but
only
we
fair.
will be covering all 3 of those original Turtles movies starting today with the first one. Rob, we're doing your request, but we're going about it the long way.
Yeah, the long way around.
That's it. And just to mention too, Rob is actually a very talented voiceover artist.
He is.
And a huge source of encouragement and everything for me. And he encouraged us to get this off the ground.
He did.
When we told him about that.
Endlessly encouraging.
Yeah, we told him about this and he was like, let's do it, you've got to do it. And he was always saying, when are you going to do it, when are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm. Totally supportive.
Absolutely. So if you want to check out his voiceover stuff, you can get him on Instagram at Robert J. Bayley. And that's Bayley. Robert J. Bayley. All one word. He also has a really good podcast if you like literature, and I know I do. He has a podcast called Bailey's Bookshelf, and each season he does a book, and you get he does basically each episode is a chapter of that book. He's done a few good ones. He's done War of the Worlds, which was awesome. He's done Dracula. He's done Jekyll and Hyde, and I think he's done 1984 recently.
That's right.
Very good, very good. In fact, when I first read War of the Worlds was through Bailey's Bookshelf. And I used to go out walking at the time a lot just to listen to the next chapter. So, yeah. And it's great because he does sort of voiceover artist level production of these audiobooks, but for free, and they're out there on Spotify, etc. So you can listen to that too if you want. Kat, would you like a wee bit of history as to just what happened with the Turtles running up to this movie coming out.
Please set the scene for me.
Awesome. So this is a part of the show I like to call Turtles a History. and so, right, 1984. Let's take ourselves all the way back 3 years before Mikey was even born, right? A guy called Kevin Eastman and a guy called Peter Laird invented the characters of the Turtles and began to publish comics. Now, this is going to be a quick roundup, right? I'm just going to go gloss over what happened, right? The big events. So, 1984, Turtles comics come out, right? 1987, the animated series started. Now, I remember watching that profusely. You know, I was born in 1987, so it was obviously quite long-lasting.
Yeah, because even I remember watching it profusely also.
It was on TV all the time. My brother loved it. We had probably had taped off the TV and stuff, so we had it on all the time. So 1987, the animated series came out, and then this film came out in 1990. So, you know, a gap of about 6 years, the Turtles basically were invented and then shot into superstardom.
Yeah.
Right? It's mental.
That is fast.
In 1989, actually, so the year before this film came out, the toys came out.
Okay.
Now, my mum and dad have told me many stories about standing outside Toys R Us, the local Toys R Us we had here. It's now a Primark, actually. That Toys R Us, is it Primark? Premark?
That's a whole can of worms.
Oh,
we don't
right,
want to
okay,
open.
let's not go there. They were standing outside and they were waiting for to get in and get these Turtles toys, and we have them and they're kicking about somewhere, but those were the original 1989 toys.
Wow.
And it was Christmas, so it was chaos up there. It's still chaos up that area now. Every Christmas we live nearby it, but then it was crazy because Toys R Us was rammed.
I remember my commute used to take me past where that is, and honestly from the beginning of December I was basically crawling the whole way home when it normally didn't take that long.
Yeah, it's wild. So it's pretty interesting, right? I had a wee look because I was really interested in these toys because I just remember them coming out, and this was a year before this film, right? As I've said. But basically, right, this is figures, right? This is an LA Times article, which I will link into the show notes, right? So anybody wants to read the whole thing, it's really interesting, right? But this was the bit I really liked. This is the wholesale figures in the US only and how much money was made each year, right? Run up to this, right? 1988 was $23 million.
Wow.
Right? 1989, $115 million.
Wow, that's a big jump.
1990, the year this came out, funnily enough, $400 million.
Goodness me. Oh, who wouldn't be happy with those numbers?
But that's
for US only.
It's US only. Like, that's how massive the Turtles were. Is it what they call a meteoric rise in that time, for instance, their inception to this movie coming out? Massive. And then this film did loads for them because it gave exposure to people who maybe hadn't seen the animated series or hadn't read the comics, but they were able to see this movie in the cinema with their kids and were like, oh, well, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
It brings in the casual observer because it's a movie.
Well, the thing is, it must have been part of a bigger plan because, certainly from the research I've been doing, it seemed that the movie actually was intended to come out before the animated series even aired.
Yeah.
So they had been planning it for a while. And then the way it landed was just the animated series came out first and then the movie.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be a big launch with the movie first, but it just never worked out that way. And I don't think it would have resonated as well if it had come movie first and animated series.
Nah, probably not.
I think that might be a big contributing factor.
Sorry, just to say the source of that was Playmates Toys, and that's from that LA Times article. And that was only in relation to Turtles figures and toy accessories.
Okay. So
Right.
not even like sales of VHS tapes or
merchandise,
whatever.
T-shirts,
Yeah, okay.
comic books, movie tickets, you know, that's
Posters,
all separate.
all sorts. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Interesting. Well, good for the Turtles.
But there you go, that's just a wee brief snapshot of how big the Turtles were at the time, which I think we should all keep in mind going into this.
I think that's a very useful summary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No worries. It was absolutely super fun and my absolute pleasure doing research on this. I was really interested.
I'm glad it wasn't a hardship.
Nah, anyway.
And with that in mind, would you like to go into this thing?
Cool, let's talk about the details of this movie before we then get into the plot. Let's go. So the movie is called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the full sort of worded title. There's no TMNT and there's no all the other abbreviations. That's what this was called, right? It came out on the 30th of March 1990. Which is interesting because these figures for toys and stuff were for maybe end of year 1990, which means if this was early 1990, this was probably what affected those toy sales hugely.
Yeah, that would make total sense.
The runtime was an hour and 33 minutes-ish. and the budget was $13.5 million, which blows my mind because I think this film looks great, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I really do, right? It's got all that puppetry going on. It's got, I think, probably some of the Jim Henson crew in there. Do you know what I'm saying? It's no dated, man.
It's not.
We watched this yesterday, and because it's real, it just looks incredible.
I would say the only thing that dates it really is the actual quality of the film. Like the actual quality of the recording.
Yeah, probably. And you can't always do something about that unless you go through it frame by frame, and
Well,
like they've done that with the old monster movies. I haven't got any chance to go back to those. Like Dracula, they went through frame by frame and then cleaned it up and did the next frame, cleaned it up. It took forever, but I've got that version and it looks amazing. But you'd have to dedicate that time and the resource to do that, and I'm not sure. I might get the treatment. I don't know.
Maybe
AI will probably do it for us.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not keen on it either. Feels like somebody's job to do that, no a computer's job. But hey, let's not go there now, right?
Yeah.
The film had a budget of $13.5 million, but then went on to make a box office total of $202 million. That's a huge profit.
That is a big profit.
Which will be why we got a second and a third.
Yes, I suspect so. But also, like, for 1990, that's impressive.
Very high.
This film was directed by Steve Barron. It was written by Todd Langen and Bobby Herbeck. The production studio was New Line Studio, and it's not based on a book, but it is based on the characters developed by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, as you said. There are a couple of taglines for this film, the classic of Heroes in a Half Shell.
Turtle power! It doesn't say that bit, but it does say Heroes in a Half Shell.
Yeah, but you can't not say it in that voice.
Exactly.
Lean, green and on the screen. It's not
That's
bad.
really good. I like that.
I prefer this one. They're mean, green and on the screen.
So it was kind of similar then. Did they use both those? That's kind of alright. Okay.
They're about 5, I think.
Yeah, okay, the last one kind of honed in on it.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
refined.
a good idea on it. They perfected it with the last one.
They did.
The synopsis that we have here is 4 teenage mutant ninja turtles emerge from the shadows to protect New York City from a gang of criminal ninjas.
Well, that's everything in a half shell, isn't it?
Called the Foot Clan. I just added that bit in, but that's what they're called.
Yeah, it is. I wonder why they're called Foot.
Because they kick feet people, like Mike Bayley. Speedball Mike Bayley.
That makes sense, actually.
I'm a bit obsessed with Speedball Mike Bayley. He's my total favourite wrestler just now. The guy doesn't wear any shoes, man.
I know, his feet must be dead dirty.
You know what, right? You get this gives you the heap, but he high fives people with his feet on the way in.
Oh, no.
And folk love it. If I was in that front row, I'd be tagging his foot and then putting a bit of hand gel on, but I'd still be doing it.
Don't you think hand gel's going to cover it? Yeah.
Anyway, he's definitely a member of the Foot Clan.
Definitely, he's probably...
He's not because he's a face, and he wouldn't do that. He's a good guy. So the scores on this movie, the tomatometer, how's that?
That's good.
43%.
That's a bit mean.
It is, eh? It feels overly harsh to me.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The popcorn meter, however, gives a more promising score of 81%.
Nice. See, that's the Turtles fans out there.
Yeah, loyal.
Yeah, this film is always going to have its fans, but it could just have easily have been a terrible film that was totally off-cast. But with those scores, it doesn't look like it because it has a following. If it's not with critics, it has a following with audiences. So, and
I think it's always a tricky genre to assess critically.
It's basically a comic book film.
It is a comic book film. It is, yeah. I think it quite easily sit in that category. I think also, as I say, it's a bit difficult critically because it's not a masterpiece. Like, it's not, an Oscar winner, but it's enjoyable. It's
joyful. Yeah. That's the way I would describe it. That's how it makes me feel. You know what I mean? But we'll save the evaluations for later on, eh?
Sounds good.
Right, cool. Let's get to the plot of this bad boy. Let's get righteous and radical. It's turtle time.
So our film opens to a beautiful camera pan over an aerial view of New York City as reporter April O'Neil, who is played by Judith Hogue.
And I recognised this woman from somewhere, and I said to Kat, what is it? And it turned out, we Googled it, and it was Forever My Girl. It was last week's movie she was in. What are the chances?
Such a small world.
But she plays a doctor, but she's only in a little flashback scene in that movie. So but I recognised her face because her face is quite distinctive.
She has got a definite look.
Yeah, but that's all I could really recognise her for, to be fair.
See, I've watched the Halloween Town movies and she's the mum in that.
Yeah, I saw that credit and I thought, all right, so she's in that and you'll know her for that, right enough, aye.
Yeah.
Disney Channel films.
So April O'Neil is covering a story about a string of mysterious and seemingly organised thefts occurring across the city. And we see various scenes of members of the gang known as the Foot Clan. stealthily stealing various items from people right under their noses.
I found this terrifying. I was like, oh my lord. Right, see, at this point, I was like, I'm glad I have zippy pockets on my shorts.
Mm-hmm. It just shows you how easily pickpocketing takes place.
I know, and I've got zippy pockets on my combats, which I also wear.
Yeah.
I'm so cool.
You're down with the kids. Yeah, there's been a lot of thefts recently, I think.
Everywhere. There's no just here.
But it wasn't the Foot Clan here, I don't think.
Could have been.
Might have been.
I never checked the sewers. Came on in the night.
Oh yeah, bye. See you tomorrow after you've had
And
a
what
shower.
are you doing to look at the poop and the ninjas?
The poop ninjas.
Poop ninja.
Yeah, but the scenes about the stealing are quite funny. Like stealing things right under people's nose. Like, there's a guy giving a delivery.
Yeah.
Like out of his van.
He turns around, van's empty.
All the stuff in the van gone in
I quite
seconds.
like that. There's this chain with him passing this guy's wallet around, and who we know later is Danny. Is one of the main sort of characters in the movie, slides the wallet to somebody and they've got this big like gauntlet ninja arm, and I'm like, right, wait, okay.
I also noticed this and I was like, way to look inconspicuous and not draw attention to yourself.
Yeah, and there's also a woman watching TV on her balcony, and then like she's watching the telly and she looks away, and then the TV gets swiped, which looks like it weighs nothing at all.
Yeah.
And she turns into her, she sort of goes, huh?
Yeah. It is a beauty of a sound.
Yeah.
So good. But there was a comment also that they stole from skateboards to stereo systems is the sort of range of items that they have stolen.
Quite a range.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely ranging in value as well.
Yeah.
As April walks across a vacant lot at the end of the day, she stumbles across a group of thieves stealing merchandise from a van.
Merchandise.
Oh, no, not the merchandise.
Turtles t-shirts.
No, it's turtle toys.
Oh, of course.
As we know, they were the hot property.
Aye.
They pin her to the ground and attempt to steal from her when suddenly the single light in the parking lot, which probably explains why there's a lot of muggins.
Yeah, guys, get more lights in your parking lot.
Yeah, well lit parking lots, please. The single light goes out, which is even worse.
It's really dark now.
Pitch black. And by the time a nearby police officer arrives, the thugs have been tied up, conveniently.
Easy peasy. April's a superhero.
Yeah, sorted. That's exactly what it is. That's the whole trajectory of this movie.
Aye.
Maybe not. April, however, finds a sigh lying on the ground near her, and she puts it in her purse, as the Americans would call it.
Yep. Or bag. That's what they call it, yeah.
Pops it in her bag as a mysterious pair of eyes watches her from under the lid of a manhole.
Ooh, creepy.
The figure curses under his breath before disappearing underground.
So this pair of eyes is Raphael's eyes.
Yes, it is.
And it's like, I actually said to you, I turned into you at this point already, right, this early on, and I went, do you think that Master Splinter, right, he's really, really into the idea of them not being seen, right? Immediately when they go back, actually, in a minute, he says, were you seen, right? And I was like, do you think it's because all these things are going on? All these muggins and all, well, no muggins, all these people getting stolen and all this, that he doesn't want the turtles being blamed for it. So he's like, you need to stay at the spotlight, firstly, because you're a giant turtle and people might not react very well. But secondly, the first thing they're going to do is lynch you because you're a giant turtle. So, and it's your fault. And so, you know what I mean?
I think you've 100% hit the nail on the head. That's why he's super cautious about them getting seen and discovered.
So deep in the sewers, we see the 4 humanoid turtles wearing coloured sort of eye bands. You know what they look like by now if you didn't. What's wrong with you?
Hey, where you been?
Aye, that's it.
Or when were you born?
Aye, true. Yeah. Listen, the turtles are all over the place now. They've had the Nickelodeon show that the kids like, and now they've had those movies that Michael Bay made, and they've never went away. The turtles have always been in the public consciousness, and it's awesome.
That's a very good point, actually.
Just had that new movie, which we haven't seen yet, Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah, we've not seen
that even more now after watching this yesterday. And Seth Rogen made that one, so
hey, that
he's like
makes
a
it be
fan.
good.
So it's like don't know if that's always a good thing, but it worked. Certainly worked for the Muppet movie when Jason Segel came in, because he's a huge Muppet fan. I'll see this as an opportunity to go through all 4 turtles, right? The colour eye band they have and the weapon they use sort of as distinguishing features so that you can recognise them in case you're not familiar with these guys.
I think that would be helpful.
Right? So Raphael wears a red eye band, right? And he uses a sai weapon, which is what he just dropped, and which is the thing that April just chucked in her bag.
Yeah, she's just chucked his fork in her bag.
That's right. And it's basically a fork. It's like a 3-pronged fork and the middle bit's really long.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. So I'm sitting here making hand gestures at Kat with pretending I've got a fork, but I just gave her the middle finger when I went really long. I'm so sorry. Right.
Wow.
Take
okay.
that. I know. Sorry.
That's a bit rude.
Right. Let's move on. Leonardo, who has a blue sort of eye band, he uses 2 katana swords, right? He's sort of like the leader, right?
Yeah.
We weren't sure about this yesterday because I was like, I think it's Raph, and Kat was like, I think it's Leonardo. It turned out to be Leonardo, basically.
Yeah, Raphael's too hot-headed to be leader.
He is, and once we Googled it seems pretty evident. And I think they reference it in the movie at one point. Like, you're the leader, I think, like Raph says to him or something.
Yeah. Very good impression, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Mikey, Michelangelo, uses nunchucks, and he's got an orange eye band. And Donatello has a purple eye band and uses a bow staff.
Excellent.
Which is just like a big staff.
It is, a big old stick with
Right.
purple round it. Huh.
That's it. So that's our 4 turtles.
Yeah, that's the turtle roundup.
Master Splinter is a rat and he don't need no weapon.
He is the weapon.
That's it. He is the weapon. For some reason in my notes here I've got, and now I want a Burger King. There must have been a Burger King somewhere.
There was a really obvious Burger King product placement.
There's quite a lot of product placement in this.
There is.
Just like the product placement in Lilo and Stitch. We went to see that yesterday with our nieces, and it's like they're Capri Sun.
Yeah. Oh, I really want
Or
one now.
Capri Sun.
Capri
They had
Sun.
like Capri Suns or Capri Suns galore. Eh?
They did. They really did.
The turtles as well, they're played by, so it's kind of weird. I've got the people who voiced them here. I didn't have who played them physically because there was somebody in the suit, and in most cases I think there was somebody who did the voice.
That's
and they
right.
matched them together. So Raph was voiced by a guy called Jonathan Pais, who I think, could be wrong, he was the only one that voiced and also acted in the suit as well.
I think so, yeah.
Right. Leonardo was voiced by a guy called Brian Toshi. This guy's crazy, right? I looked into him. He's done so many uncredited voices for Disney.
That's
And
crazy.
loads of movies like Hercules, Lion King, Pocahontas, like
Oh, so big
one-
hitters.
Aye, uncredited in every single time. I think he'd done little voices here and there. It's kind of wild though. Can you imagine? And almost everything he's done, he's not been credited.
That would be really strange to know you're in it, but nobody knows you're in it.
Unless you go in the depths of the internet to check. Well, Wikipedia, but
Well, yeah.
the depths. Wikipedia.
That's still a dangerous place.
Michelangelo was voiced by Robbie Rist, and Donatello was voiced by Corey Feldman, of all people.
Yes, that was unexpected.
I know. The thing is, it's so obvious when you know, and you hear it and you go, it is Corey Feldman, isn't it?
That must have been crazy for Corey Feldman at the time. Like,
Is
such
it?
a big star
Yeah.
at that
You're
time.
going to get you to voice Donatello. How
Yeah.
cool is that? When we see the turtles, like in the sewer for the first time, they're having they're kind of exclaiming, right?
Yeah.
Random sort of words. Is that what you would say? Probably.
Yeah, they're totally buzzing after defeating the thugs that are attacking April.
So they're chucking out random exclamations of excitement. And Donatello does that thing where he's like, I'm going to try something new. And it doesn't go very well, does it?
No.
Awesome.
Righteous!
Bossa Nova.
Bossa Nova?
Chevy Nova?
No.
Excellent! Yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah!
All right.
All right!
All right.
But they're
Put it
all
in
like,
there.
I think it's class, like, right, everybody's been in that position where they go, all right, I'm going to try something new. You chuck out a phrase and you're like, is it going to work? Is it going to land? I don't know. I did this recently. I was chatting to a friend and I used the word rad. And I was like, I'm trying rad. And this person was very encouraging of that.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
like,
that's fine. Like your attempt at using Riz yesterday.
Oh, didn't it? It was cringe, right? I was talking to our nieces and it just came out. I meant to say charisma and I said Riz and I immediately regretted it.
Yeah, I don't think people our age are allowed to say Riz.
I'm never going to say it again, ever, unless I'm talking about it like I am now. I'm never saying that word again. It's a dirty word.
Do you know it's one of these things that
What was that? Sorry. Right. Get back on track, come on.
do you know, I think it's one of these things that you start using the word ironically because you know that we're not the people that should be saying it, and then it just kind of slips into your normal parlance and you're like, oh.
Aye, Rob and I do that. Rob, who requested Turtles 3, who we're essentially doing this episode for. Rob, this episode's dedicated to you. Thanks for listening. He always listens. Is that we use the word bay, and that's become a thing, and it was at first a joke, and now we just do it all the time when we refer to each other.
That's how it starts.
I think it was ironic, and now it's a thing. So
Dangerous, slippery slope.
it is. So they get back home, which is basically deep in the sewers. It's kind of like they've got kind of. I feel like they've got a different sort of place they live in the second one. That's got like a subway train and stuff in it.
Ah, cool.
But in this one, they don't have that. It just seems like a big space with like couches and stuff kicking about and a TV and that. And basically, Master Splinter's there, who, if you didn't know, is a giant rat, who is the one who raised the boys, basically. And Splinter, he's voiced by a guy called Kevin Clash. He's famous for doing voices in The Muppets and in Sesame Street as well. And I think like random other bits and bobs. Quite high profile things though. And he asks if they were seen immediately. That's what I mentioned earlier. And he recites to them the importance of continued training as ninjas.
Very important.
Really important. Whilst Michelangelo orders pizza, standard.
Yeah, clearly got his undivided attention.
Master Splinter's attempts to meditate are interrupted when one of the turtles turns on the radio and they all start basically partying except for one, which is Raphael. He's already kind of a bit miffed by the loss of his sai and announces that he's going out to a movie. And he's wearing a sort of trench coat and a hat as a terrible disguise, which if he walked out in the street, he'd be like, look at that turtle dressed as a man. That's what he'd say. Right? In the meantime, Donatello and Michelangelo are waiting for the pizza delivery guy. It's hilarious because I think Mikey's sitting there picking his teeth, just waiting, looking up at the grate in the sewer, and Donnie just comes skating along with sort of thing. So they kind of live their wee lives under there and do what they need to do, and it's clear that they're very used to the space. The pizza delivery guy arrives, and it's quite funny because Mikey's clearly been keeping his eye on the time, let's say that much.
Hey, this is a 10. The tab's 13.
You're 2 minutes late, dude.
Ah, come on. I couldn't find the place.
Wise men say, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. That's class. I'm going to use that next time. The guy will be like, no, you've got to give me the money or you're not getting your pizza. And I'll be like, here you go.
Not a very British thing is the kind of discount for your food if
Being
it's late.
Well, to be fair, there was a still game episode based on the concept.
Yeah,
There's
I've never
obviously
seen
a
it in
thing
real
somewhere.
life. Yeah.
Here, very local, because that's Glasgow, it's no far.
Yeah.
So,
I like these scenes because you get to have a good look at the turtles for the first time.
aye.
And their costumes they've made are amazing.
Yeah, well, even the whole suit thing is just crazy cool. Master Splinter looks great. It just looks great, and it still does, man. But I do find the whole thing hilarious, and I love the fact that he's trying to get. He basically gives him the 10, and he just slides the money through the suit grate in the sewer. It's class.
Yeah, another point of product placement because it's a Domino's pizza.
It is a Domino's pizza, and also we're thinking about ordering one later.
Yeah.
Maybe not though. We're not sure yet.
We're not
gonna
sure.
Look at our options. By Raph going out, by the way, I said this a minute ago, but it is the worst disguise, literally the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It kind of gave me, like, you know when the Thing from the Fantastic Four goes out?
Aye.
He also goes out in a trench coat and hat.
It does, aye.
So
It's exactly the same.
it's exactly the same. I
I've
think it's a
never
homage
even
to...
drew that distinction, you're totally right. But anyway, Raphael goes out and he manages to sort of trip up a couple of thugs stealing some wee woman's bag, Just sticks his leg out and they fall over and basically they run into a nearby park. Raphael runs in after them and he meets a sort of vigilante guy. So they're not the only vigilantes in town.
Oh, hey, there's competition.
Well, this is New York. There's many, but, in this universe, there is only Turtles and Casey Jones. And this guy is Casey Jones.
Excellent, lovely to meet Casey.
That's it. He's played by a guy called Elias Koteas. I think that's how you say it.
Sounds good to me.
Aye, and this guy, right, is the spitting image of Robert De Niro. It's
He
wild.
really is. It's so crazy.
And I thought this guy must have had a huge career. Didn't he do a lot?
No, he did not. It was sad when we looked up.
The only other thing I knew him from was Look Who's Talking To, and he plays I'm pretty sure he plays the sort of family friend who'll be doing those at some point.
Yeah, they're on the list.
Aye, I watched all of those as a kid. And some of it's a bit adult humour, and some of it I didn't get. But I enjoyed them. And I think... the films actually start with like sperm swimming towards an egg. It's quite explicit about reproduction and how it works. I didn't even had an understanding. I was like, look at the wee tadpoles. I didn't come up with right. So Elias Koteas, I think that's how you say it. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. But the guy really does resemble De Niro. It's kind of crazy. But he wears a hockey mask and he's got a baseball bat. He's like the second coolest hockey mask wearing movie star. After who, Kat?
Jason Voorhees?
Jason Voorhees. Friday the 13th Part 3. I remember watching those movies week to week because they were on Sky or whatever and I was taping them. And I was like, oh yes, man, we're on TV, Channel 4 or something like that. And I was like, when's he get his hockey mask? And then the third one, when he gets it, I genuinely nearly celebrated. I was so excited as a kid. So
Very
I was like,
cute.
he's got his mask, which he then has for the rest of the movies.
I didn't realise he didn't have one in the second one.
Yeah, he has like a sack over his friggin' head. Why? There's a really funny sort of moment here. So not only has Casey Jones got a baseball bat, he's also got a hockey stick. He's also got a cricket bat. He's got a few things.
He's the man of many sports.
But at this point, he starts throwing out hockey puns, and I'm just going to say I appreciated it. That was a crime, you purse-grabbing pukes. And this is the penalty. Ugh. 2 minutes for slashing, 2 minutes for hooking, and let's not forget my personal favourite, 2 minutes for high sticking.
You You better use that power play, thugs.
Again, eh? Do you know what? Like, we Kat and I are sort of casual hockey observers, so I quite enjoyed this.
I also enjoyed it.
But Casey and Raphael, two big personalities, get into an argument, obviously, over the proper way to deal with thugs. So I don't know what Raphael actually thinks they should be dealt with and how they differ. I didn't understand, which kind of annoyed me. Because I was like, what is the difference here?
Yeah, I think they're both at the same purposes, but they're just both kind of quite prickly people.
But it's quite funny because basically then Casey presents a cricket bat and Raphael's jibe on cricket was hilarious.
Cricket? Nobody understands cricket. You gotta know what a crumpet is to understand cricket.
I loved they chucked in crumpets.
Yeah, who doesn't love a crumpet?
We enjoy crumpets. Are crumpets a British thing only? Question.
I think they are a very British thing, and I think that's a part of the
They're
joke.
freaking delicious.
They're so good. I looked into how to bake crumpets because I thought, I bet they're nice, fresh made,
Aye.
and it just seems like it's such a pain in the bum to make.
It's about 90. It's £1 for 9 at the co-op up the road, and that's the
Exactly.
co-op. So you know what? We can probably better just paying the £1 and
Yeah.
getting stuck into 9 crumpets.
Yeah, save me
once
heartache.
each. I'm a crumpet fan. But basically, Raphael ends up getting kicked into a garbage can and he's pretty miffed, eh? Because Casey's kind of calling him all sorts of names like a bogey, I think, at one point.
Bogey?
I'm pretty sure he uses the word bogey, and I think it was a American
Maybe it's a
term.
golf pun.
Maybe. Oh, because he does have the golf. So I got a bit confused because, like, why is he calling him a bogey?
Like,
But
I know
then
he's
get it.
green, but come on.
Aye. Because he's green, aye. And he calls him a punker. And I was like,
But yeah, I've got. What is a punker?
what's a punker? I think he just means a punk, you punk. But at the end kind of makes it more derogatory.
It does.
Yeah, punker.
Yeah,
So
big punker.
maybe that's why. Casey leaves and Raphael returns to the sewers and he's not very happy, but he gets kind of calmed with kind words from Master Splinter, as usual, because that's what Splinter does.
I think at this point, Raphael, before he goes back to the sewer, shouts, and it pans out over the whole city, hearing him shouting.
You didn't want to be seen, but you're shouting as loud as you can in the middle of the street. That's not the best way to kind of be in disguise.
No, and it happens quite a lot in these movies.
It does. He does it a couple of times. He does it again later. And it's Raph again that does it.
Aye.
But there's this bit here, Splinter's kind of giving him a bit of a pep talk, and he's got a match in his hand, and it's getting out of control. The match is there's a lot of fire, and I'm like, mate, you need to drop the match.
It's so close to his fingers. It was
is.
giving me the fear.
He does. He's got this match, and I'm like, oh god.
I know.
It was tense.
It was
It
tense.
was the most tense moment in the film. No, I'm joking.
The whole film. The next day, we see April attending a press conference that's being held by Chief Stearns, who's played by Raymond Serra. At which point, he doesn't appreciate her questions and being a bit difficult, and tells her that he doesn't like her putting her nose into other people's business, particularly around about the organised crime wave that's been seen across the city.
We are presently executing a plan of redeployment that will minimize response time while maximizing coordination between patrol units in a decentralized networking scheme.
Huh. I'm not sure I understood all that, Chief Stearns. Would you mind repeating it? In English, perhaps?
What baller move? Got your celly, bro.
She's so sassy.
I appreciated it so much because a place I worked had the same problem. We'd sometimes go to higher level meetings and people would be coming out with this absolute dribble jargon, and I'd turn into my manager and be like, what does this actually mean? Can you please summarise, because this is ridiculous. And it's like they were trying to confuse us mere mortals or something, you would think.
I do worry about that, and it's something that is really important to keep in mind. There's this whole plain English initiative, and it's about keeping stuff legible for everybody. You're not
Aye.
leaving anybody behind.
Absolutely, aye.
I think it's really important.
Because you just waffle stuff like this, nobody's got to understand it. It's purposefully meant to sound absurd, and it actually works.
It is, and it's all buzzwords that everybody
is.
hates anyway.
Aye. But her reaction, just priceless, because I wanted to say that so many times. And that wasn't even just previous employment, that was employment way before that.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, normally when you were meeting someone of a higher level.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? See, about this point, right, we see Shredder sort of for the first time. So Shredder's the big bad guy. I played by a guy called James Saito, not James Avery. If you're a Turtles fan, James Avery voiced Shredder in the animated series, who was Uncle Phil
Nice.
in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But it's a guy called James Saito, and this guy has been in a lot of stuff. He was in Die Hard 3 at one point, and he was in Pearl Harbor as well. I think he plays, I don't know if it's like sort of smaller parts, what I could gather when I was looking into this last night. But the guy that plays him kind of embodies the Shredder thing pretty well, I'd say. But at this point, especially so, because he's sitting there in front of a giant bunch of TVs. All these TVs, a big wall of TVs of various sizes.
Must be what they're doing with the stolen tellies.
That's it. It's just Shredder wants all these tellies so he can just like watch them.
Yeah,
And
watch all the same channels at the same time.
tellies, more tellies. Kind of like when you see old walls. There's a country estate nearby us, and there's a wall that borders it, and it's one of those walls, but it's been built by like some sort of bricksmith. I don't know, right? What do you call that when you build a wall? A wall guy, right?
No idea.
And it's like, and you know, all the different bricks are different sizes, and they make up the wall. That's what the TVs kind of look like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally indicative of the time because it was always in music videos and stuff in the 90s of like this wall of tellies and all that sort of stuff.
Weird. Often with white noise on them for some reason. I was like, why does he need so many tellies anyway? And then that question was immediately answered when he threw a sort of kunai or something through one of them, eh?
Yeah.
Aye, he smashes one of the TVs, and I'm like, all right, that's why he's got so many tellies there.
He goes through them at a rate of knots.
Yeah. Oh, that's Master Shredder smashed another telly. We need a new one.
Alright, have you got any more in the back?
Send some of the Foot Clan out to steal some wee woman's telly. It's sitting on our balcony, and she'll go, oh, when you do it.
So April leaves the press conference and she heads home via the subway, but she heads down the stairs into the subway station and just misses one of the trains. Annoying, hate when that happens. So she's standing there and is confronted by a team of thieves dressed in ninja garb.
Totally, and they've got like the big fly eyes.
Why are they flies?
I don't know, I think it's a thing.
Oh, okay.
I think they were always kind of drawn that way and stuff. I don't know if this is a stereotype or if there's some form of, you know, martial arts that wear an outfit like that, but they've got the big sort of cages over their eyes, kind of weird.
We've been waiting for you, Miss O'Neill.
What? Am I behind on my Sony payments again?
This whole thing is so bizarre, right? Firstly, right, let's unpack. What is a Sony payment? And the only thing I think is that she's bought so many Sony devices that for the time it's probably just TVs, and she's got to
Maybe
pay she's paying payments for her TV. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like a TV payment. Maybe it's like TV license. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
I also was like, why does she find herself so funny afterwards?
I think it's more, I actually quite enjoyed the laugh. I didn't mind it too much because I think it's just the fact that like she lives in New York and she's clearly lived there for a long time. This is probably not her first incident and clearly isn't because she already had to get rescued by the turtles earlier on and she stood up for herself then too.
She's not even bothered, really. No. It's quite funny. But anyway, one of the Foot Clan does the most Scottish thing ever. Not slap her, but he slaps her. It's what he says after. Yeah. He goes, "Shut it!" And I'm like, I burst out laughing because I was like, that is such a Scottish... Shut it is very much a Scottish thing. Like, shut up, like, shut it.
Yeah, you shut it.
And you say it with that much venomosity. Is that a word?
I'm not sure, but I like it.
It is now. Yeah. But you say it with such venomosity, don't you? Like,
you do.
Shut it. And that's how he says it.
Totally. And the thing is, he doesn't even tell her what she's to shut it about. So it's a bit ambiguous. So as a message, not great. What it says here in this plot breakdown is that they told her to shut it because she had mentioned the Foot Clan. But I don't remember her mentioning the Foot Clan.
No, I don't think. Maybe it's because she mentions them on TV, because she kind of outwardly mentions the Foot Clan to the police at one point. I don't know if that gets aired on the telly. But in any case, they're very much aware she's sniffing around.
She does try to fight back, but they knock her out. But Raphael steps in yet again to save April's bacon, while in his trench coat and hat disguise.
Super amazing disguise.
He picks up April, Raphael picks up April, and heads into the sewer. The Foot leader has come down in time to see Raphael carrying the unconscious April down the subway tunnel, and he follows him. So Raphael is taking April to the Turtles' hideout, which all the rest of people there do not agree with at all, which is unsurprising given the secret hideout nature of their home. You know, secret being the operative word. And you just see the Foot leader peeking into their house like, oh, I know where you live now.
And I missed that. And then I was like, how did they get in? And I must have just taken a note or something.
You must have been.
That's why it's good that there's two of us doing this, because often one of us misses something the other one doesn't miss. So
it's true. I saw that a fly peeping right in. Annoying when a fly gets in your house. I can't get out the window. So yeah, the leader, after peeking in, goes away. He's just like, I know where you are now. And he's like, I better go and tell Shredder. April then wakes up and she screams at the sight of the turtles and Splinter, and then Splinter tries to explain to her who they are and why they're here.
It's all a bit much.
If you will please, just sit down and calm yourself. I will tell you where we came from.
It talks.
It is really quite simple, Miss O'Neill.
And he knows my name. Perfect.
15 years ago.
Why don't I ever dream of Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford. Jane, she looks back at that news and she was like, oh, I didn't really want to dream Harrison Ford.
Oh, I quite like Harrison Ford still. I think
He's
he's a very
class.
handsome fella to this day.
I mean, he's older, doesn't he mean he's not handsome?
Yeah, he's in his 80s. He still looks perfectly fit. He looks
He
good
was
as the
class.
Hulk.
He was the best thing about that new Captain America movie, I thought.
I agree.
I don't know, I actually didn't even see what other people thought of that. Not just in the
No.
movie. I've seen it was rotten, but I didn't actually see anything else. But I know that Fordy was class in it. He actually made a character who you hate, that genuinely everyone hates, quite sympathetic, and that's hard to do. So
It is quite difficult, but no, he did good. He
he's
did
not
really
in this
good.
anyway. So
He is not in this. I do love April's reaction though, and she's like, "I'm dead. I'm 100% dead. I am dreaming." Like she says it out loud to convince herself. Before that point, a tad dramatic is our April.
I tell you what, I noticed here. I was like, how cool is it that the costumes and the puppetry and everything here, it's very evident because they're in a well-lit area and you see everything. And there's a really cool shot where she's lying down. The turtles are sort of around her and you see Master Splinter, but only in the mirror. And it's like, oh, it's just really cool.
Oh, that's clever. I didn't notice that.
Aye, and it's like wee things like that. I don't think you see him. You only see his reflection. You might see a bit of him. I can't remember. But the whole shot looks really pleasing. A lot of thought to the way it went into the way this film looks, and it's really clear.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The costumes, like, despite the puppetry aside, the costumes themselves are really well done,
Super cool.
apart from the fly eyes.
Aye, well,
That was a choice, though.
I think that might have been for the comics and stuff, you know.
Probably would have been. I can't imagine a pitch being like, you know what they need?
Well, guys.
Fly eyes. So Splinter goes into their origin story saying that 15 years ago, he had been living in the sewers after being separated from his master, Hamato Yoshi, when he discovered 4 baby turtles that were moving around in some kind of toxic waste. Dun, dun,
Or
dun.
ooze, but we're not
Or-
getting there yet. That doesn't come in yet.
Yeah. Does that come later?
Later.
In the movie?
Well, the second one's called Secret of the Ooze.
Right, so it comes in the second
Yeah.
movie, not in this movie.
No,
I just worried in case I missed something.
No, you didn't. It's just like, it's really glossed over here. I think it's so that they could do a sequel and go into it more, probably. That
makes
was my
sense.
theory anyway, I don't know.
No, that makes total sense. Not got time in this one. Master Splinter herded the babies to his home, where they quickly grew larger and eventually grew to walk on 2 feet and
Claire.
started talking.
There's one that's clearly Michelangelo and it's like, pizza!
Yeah, to be fair, that one could be me.
Okay, I love that. I think we're going to have pizza later. I love this whole scene. It's just like, I find little Master Splinter just cute as a button. I can't help it.
It is really cute. It shouldn't be for a rat, but
No.
very cute.
But it's because he's not a rat. He's kind of, clearly it's still a puppet and you've shot it in a certain way. And certainly some of the stuff I've seen suggested some of the negative thoughts about this film were just the way these scenes looked. But I'm like, no, I think it looks really charming. And to see the turtles when they're kind of half turtle, half humanoid are a bit terrifying.
They're weird.
But Master Splinter's really cute and I like that.
Yeah, I also don't appreciate they used terrapins for the turtles.
They did, aye. Because they're tiny and it's probably just easier.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the biology thing because it really...
Yeah, I know. They're different things, dude.
Yeah, if we pull...
Terrapins are very small, like really wee.
They are quite small. But if we start pulling that thread, the whole thing falls apart, so I'm not even going there. Just going to take it as a flight of fantasy, for that's what it is.
They're giant talking turtles, so let's just roll with it.
Exactly. The intermediate stage is very odd, though.
Ah, you're right.
Agreed. Splinter also noticed changes in himself, particularly in intellect, is what he says, with a little hand flourish. As
Yeah, he
he does
just
it.
kind of goes like, no. We were D-Day.
Yeah.
We were sitting there because we were like, what was that? He's just like, I'm so smart. Like,
Yeah, like, oh, I also flamenco. Well,
it's really odd. Loved it.
very odd. Splinter also began training the turtles in what he knew of the martial art of ninjutsu.
From watching Master Yoshi, his master.
So
Which it comes up again later when he talks about it.
It does, yeah. So he's obviously taken in lots from his master and is passing it on to the next generation of mutant turtles.
All right. Sorry, it's just a sentence that's caught me off guard. Right, hold on. So the turtles basically are like, well, we can't have you going home yourself, we'll take you, right? So
Safe.
they take her home through the sewers, obviously. And it's funny because they're walking around smelling and they know where they are in
Yeah.
Manhattan. It's quite funny.
They didn't elaborate on the specific smells, so I didn't ask any more questions.
No, that's it, but they need to know. But they imagine that some parts of New York City smell worse than others.
Yeah, and some smell better than others.
Well, we were there in a heat wave, in
We
a
were.
September heat wave, and the place didn't smell good.
It was very sticky.
It was a weird place to be because it smelled right? And then when I got home to the hotel, I was dirty. I had flecks of dirt all over my skin because you're in a big city, and that's just something we didn't get here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, not in this part of Scotland anyway.
Yeah,
But
even
it's-
in centre Edinburgh, you don't get that.
No, but in Glasgow maybe, because it's much more industrial and there's more sort of buildings and it's a
Yeah.
bigger city and more congestion, and therefore, do you know what I mean? So I just found it wasn't a culture shock, but it was just something I noticed.
Yeah.
And any city or any place in that much heat is not going to smell good. So
True.
I'm not saying New York smells. New York is actually radical, I'd say.
Yeah, cowabunga.
It's righteous. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, they get to April's bit and they come out, pop out the sewers, and then she's just kind of like, "Oh, you can come in, but I've not really got anything to offer you." And they're like, "Oh, that's all right." And then she basically drops the P word, eh?
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to offer you guys except a frozen pizza.
Let's go for it!
That's Mikey getting very excited for his pizza,
He loves pizza.
which is a scene that you will see here later on.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But not like he's buzzing for pizza, eh?
Yeah. Pizza and he's anybody's.
But it appears that April's warmed to them very quickly because they're all sitting. I think it's because they're so charming.
They are
And
charming.
they're in her flat and they're all having a laugh and they're eating the pizza, and it's quite a nice scene, eh? But it's like she's warmed to the fact that there are mutant turtles in the world very quickly. I think it would maybe I think I would certainly have a bit more of an adjustment period.
I definitely have loads of questions.
Right, wait a minute. What was this about ooze?
Ah, yeah. Where is this ooze? Is there more ooze?
Yes, there is, but that's not the point.
There you go. See, all valid questions.
I see. But at this point, there is a scene where Michelangelo is entertaining the troops by doing impressions and chatting and generally being silly. And then this bit cracks me up for reasons which I'll go into in a sec. But this is what transpires, and it's essentially Mikey doing impressions.
Oh, this is totally cool.
Not Cagney.
You dirty rat, you killed my brother. You dirty rat.
Right? Some things about that general scene, right, is the fact that, right, so he's doing impressions of James Cagney, right, from a 1932 movie called Taxi, right, which I've been trying to track down because I really want to watch now, and I've had a bit of a challenge, but I found it on Dailymotion, so right, so I'm acquiring it as we speak. But the actual so I found the clip from the movie though yesterday, and so what he actually says is, right, "Come out and take it, you dirty yellow-bellied rat, or I'll give it to you through the dirt," right? And it's kind of like the way he says it, and it's cool. And I've not done it justice there because I've only seen it one time last night, but that's where it comes from, and that's what's actually said.
Okay.
And so the interesting thing is I then found a speech by James Cagney at some sort of award ceremony where he goes, "I did not say you dirty rat," because I think he's had it his whole career. Is that folk have thought it's that Mandela effect thing where actually everyone's thought that he says this, but he hasn't. That's not what he says in the movie.
Oh, wow, okay.
You know, another, like, if we're talking pop culture and Mandela effect, it references one of the biggest is in Star Wars, you know, where it's everybody thinks he says, "Luke, I am your father," but he doesn't say that. He just says, "No, I am your father," I think.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's the way around.
And it's, do you know what I mean? And it's that pop culture thing, but that's what's happened here, and it's that's why they do the impression, because it's in the sort of popular consciousness that that's what he says, but he doesn't.
Oh, interesting.
The other thing is that I can see you looking at me because you know I'm going to mention this. When I was a kid, I used to get I didn't really hear what he said, and so I used to walk around going, "You dirty rat, you stole my bread and butter," all the time.
I can understand because, like, it's a very, like, I don't know if you get brother from that unless you're an adult.
Yeah, I was a kid, and so "you stole my bread and butter" seemed to make sense to me, and I certainly used to do it all the time. My brother was always like, "You're an idiot," and I'm like, "Yeah, you stole my bread and butter." Quite honestly. And the thing is, I was doing it right up until we watched this again a couple of years ago, and then I went, "Oh my God, he doesn't say that." And then I thought, of course he doesn't say that. That makes no sense.
Yeah. You had your own Mandela effect
I did.
on the go here.
I did. It's a Mandela effect chain.
Yeah.
The thing is so just in case you're no sure, you didn't know, I googled this I think a few weeks ago because there was something we were talking about, not on this, but we were talking about, and I googled it then. But basically the idea, right, it was a woman called Fiona Broom in 2009 came out with this sort of term, which is people misremembering historical facts, right? And it's called the Mandela effect because everybody thought that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 80s, but he didn't. He actually died way later in 2013 and not in prison. And that's it. And that term's now being used more broadly and for things like this. And that's
So-
exactly what this is.
She coined the Mandela effect when Mandela was still alive. if she coined it in 2009.
Yeah, so
but then
he's still
didn't-
alive. Yeah.
Ah, but
4
Jakey
years
was
later.
sitting there gutted. Like,
No, really, because he would have been like, everybody thinks he's dead. He's no dead. He never died in prison. He's alive.
Yeah.
Like, so at the time.
okay.
But it's pretty. I thought it was really interesting. I just thought I'd delve into that wee bit there.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the movie. So the turtles then head back home and they find that their lair's been broken into and Master Splinter's missing. With nowhere else to go, they basically return to April. And I honestly really felt for them here because I'm like, they've not got anywhere else to go.
Yeah, they're totally lost without Master Splinter. I
They're
feel sorry
lost
for them.
essentially lost without their dad. They
Yeah.
didn't know what to do.
Totally. And the
it's-
heartbreak of like being broken into.
Exactly. Well, that's right. Well, this is it, right? So we're sitting watching it, and Kat just we're watching it, and Kat, you exclaimed while watching the movie. You were that into it. She turned and went, "Oh no, they've been broken into!"
I don't even remember doing this.
And it's worse. "Oh no, they've been broken into, and Master Splinter's been stolen." That's what you said.
I do remember saying that actually. It's true.
It was the most Scottish thing ever. They've been broken into, and Master Splinter's been stolen.
Technically a kidnap, but stolen still works. And Raphael does one of his signature shouts.
I know. Honestly, I said it a minute ago, but Jesus, he's like the worst ninja ever.
Yeah, very
You're supposed to
loud
be
for a
quiet.
ninja.
You're supposed to not be seen.
Yeah.
That also means not being loud.
Yeah. Master Splinter says don't be seen, but he didn't say nothing about not being heard.
Don't be seen, but you can shout my name as much as you want, or anybody else's for that matter.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it's a lesson he's yet to learn.
Raphael's just out on the roof like, April! Donatello! Just shouting everything.
Yeah.
Pizza! You know what I mean?
Oh, to be fair, that's me all the time.
That's both of us all the time.
Danny Pennington, who is played by Michael Turney, is a teenager that we see throughout this film.
You've seen him earlier.
Yeah,
He's like April's boss's son.
that's right. He steals money from April's purse at one point.
Yeah, earlier on he steals, or I think it's earlier on, he steals like 20 or a 50 for her purse or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Aye.
But yes, so it's her boss's son, so the head of Channel 3 News, whose name is Charles, and is played by Jay Patterson. And you see Charles get a phone call from the Chief of Police, Chief Stern. Danny has apparently been arrested and is in jail. And Chief Stern is willing to conduct a deal with Charles to allow Danny's release if he gets April to lay off on the organised crime angle of the crime wave that's going on across New York.
So my first thought here is police corruption, question mark? Do they know that that's going on?
Yeah, could be.
Do they know? And are they in the pockets of the Foot Clan? But I didn't think so, because it suggested, like, later on, that's where my mind went immediately, but I didn't actually think that's what's going on here. I think he just wants them to back off because it's making them look bad.
And I suspect they're under quite a lot of pressure, with her determination probably not helping out in that situation, you know, where she's like a dog with a bone.
The police they're just making them look pretty crappy.
Yeah, not ideal.
On national news.
Charles shows up at April's apartment with Danny in tow and advises her to stop running the story before it gets her in any more trouble. So he's telling her to cool down, which I'm sure is just not what April wants to hear.
No.
April, however, is more concerned about Charles discovering the turtles that are hiding in her apartment.
Yeah, they're like everywhere.
Yeah, they really are. Danny even spots one briefly in a reflection of a mirror.
Yeah, and he has another cool mirror shot, and it's Raph, I'm pretty sure,
I think it
under
is.
a table or something. And he notices Raph, and he's like, what's that? Doesn't he say anything? Doesn't he react?
But when he looks back, he's gone.
That's right. It's like, did I just see that? No, never, because ninjas.
Cause ninjas.
Maybe he's a better
exactly.
ninja than we thought, if it is Raphael.
Yeah, that's it. So April also does a skillful job of sort of navigating them through her apartment, avoiding the turtles as well, including avoiding one of them behind the shower curtain
Aye.
while trying to get a towel.
And she's like, didn't look at my dirty bath scrum or whatever.
Yeah, she's like, don't look at my dirty bath. Yeah, and she manages to get them out of her apartment quite quickly. And while driving home, Charles confronts Danny about stealing. And when he gets stopped in traffic, Danny jumps out the car and runs off.
Great.
Yeah, just what he wanted. And Danny heads straight for an abandoned warehouse near the harbour, which is where the Foot Clan has claimed as its base of operation.
And it seems like their base of operations is basically just child labour, but not really, because they're giving the kids everything they could possibly want. They've got all the games they want, they've got all the cigarettes they want apparently, and cigars. There's a cigar smoking child.
That cigar is the biggest cigar I've ever seen.
It's the cartoon cigar in this child's gob. It might just because it's in the gob of a child, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
there's all sorts. There's beers, or certainly stubby bottles kicking about, look like beers. I think these kids get whatever they want.
Yeah.
And so they think that they're sort of clearly think that they're part of some sort of family.
Yeah, and it's like a really rough biker grove.
Aye. Biker Grove.
Like there's like skateboarding tracks.
How did you
and
manage to get a Biker Grove reference into this episode about the turtles?
I've got skills to
I
be the
can't
best.
see, man!
I cannot see. There's more important cameos in this than anybody from Biker Grove
Oh, yeah.
because Sam Rockwell turns up here.
Sam Rockwell is one of the little foot soldier minions.
Yeah.
So like the lead sort of child. He's not really a child. He's older than the kids, but he's definitely no old.
No, he looks like he's in his 20s.
Aye. So he's
Maybe
kind of like
early
the
20s.
older, sort of in charge foot soldier dudes.
Mm-hmm.
In this scene as well, there's also some sort of base shredder, is what I've wrote down. There's a child with a punker, you might say, right? And he's playing a bass and he's shredding away on it. It's like like frigging Cliff Burton or something. It's genuinely, his fingers are going, playing a bass shredder punker. And they also have a fight club, apparently. I think it's actually just them training. But I was like, they have a fight club.
It did feel very Fight Club.
There was a fight club vibe.
There was. It was quite an intense vibe and also some skullduggery here
Mhm.
where the trainer kicks the pupil,
Yeah.
like beats him quite badly actually.
Aye.
But it's while he was bowing.
Aye.
So I was like, this
Is it Tetsu?
I think it is
Aye.
Tetsu.
Tetsu's kind of like Shredder's lead minion.
Yeah, the
Sort of
second in
trains all the
command.
kids. Eh?
Yeah. And I was like, that's poor form. Surely like all ninjutsu is all about, discipline and honour.
Cat turned around at this point and was like, right, this is their TV stealing operation, so Master Shredder doesn't have to pay for his Sony payments.
That's it. They can avoid those
Clearly.
Sony payments at any cost.
But aye, basically, there's loads of kids in here and there's stolen items, like we said, games everywhere, all this stuff. I think what Tetsu's doing is inducting new Foot Clan members in to their sort of training scheme thing.
Yeah.
Right? And a gong sort of signals that it's time to have their big meeting. So everybody gathers in this big sort of area where their leader, Master Shredder, who is, as I said, James Saito, voiced by a guy called David McCharran. So it's not his voice, it's somebody else's voice, but James Saito provides the sort of muscle. But he's sort of clad in menacing ninja armour, is what it says here.
He is, yeah. And there was a one point where Tetsu's trying to like move his cape, but
Aye.
Shredder's outfit's obviously in real life very jaggy.
Aye.
So like he takes it off with quite a lot of trepidation. And
Aye.
you're like, it must have been really sharp.
But I refers to them as sort of outcast children or lost boys is the vibe I got, to be honest. And he tells them that there's a new threat to their order as Master Splinter's tied up against a wall at the back and he's listening in. Basically, upon mentioning the word turtles, Danny decides to speak up and say, I've seen some of them.
Aye, I've seen a turtle.
Yeah, Danny's a rotter here.
He is.
He's a grass.
Yeah, he is. And he just seems like a dirty rat who stole my bread and butter.
Do my bread and butter.
At one point, Shredder says, I am your father.
Does he?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, Darth Vader.
I am your father. Well, he says that to Danny. He's not Danny's
He says
dad.
that to all of the people there.
Does he?
Yeah. Like, he is their
Oh,
father.
I'm getting confused between Spreader and Skinner. Well,
Spreader and Skinner.
right. I'm getting confused between Splinter and Shredder. So that's what's going on here.
Right, I get it.
I wrote down here, right, Tetsu grunts a lot.
He does grunt a lot.
I think 90% of his script is,
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to pay him to speak. They were just like, just make noises.
well, I think, right, so actually this guy, right, the guy that is Master Tetsu or just Tetsu or whatever, he's a cinema fight choreographer.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know, he must have, one assumes he maybe did it for this, I don't know. But that's what he does and that's what he's quite famous for.
That's cool.
Aye. At April's apartment, the Turtles are watching the news as April updates on recent thefts and she's still going on about this stuff and sends out a personal thanks to Raphael for rescuing her.
He totally tries to play it cool. He's just like...
It does.
whatever.
I wrote that. Raph always plays it so cool and they're all like, oh, Raph. And also at this point I was like, April has magic hair because, right, when she's on the TV, it looks like it's red hair. And then when you see her not on through the TV screen but actually getting filmed for the telly, it's brune. It's like mousy brown.
It is. It's impressive.
I was like, she's got magic hair. It's just the way it's getting picked up on the screen, I think. It's quite cool though.
Yeah,
Because
especially
in your
she's-
head, April O'Neil's always had red hair.
Mm-hmm.
No brune hair, but it's kind of brune.
Yeah, but yeah, I always imagine her with the red hair.
Raphael and Leonardo sort of get into a wee bit of an argument over what to do with that Splinter's no here now. And Raphael leaves the apartment and goes up onto the roof. And I'm like, where he has spotted, by the way. And it's like, so he goes out, classic Raphael style, during the day onto a roof thinking he's not going to get seen when this is New York City and there's always a roof bigger than yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets spotted.
He does, and also he's doing angry cartwheels.
Yeah, aye, what's that? He's doing rage wheels, eh?
Yes.
It's Raj.
I don't know. I wish I could do a cartwheel. So as we said, he goes onto the roof where he is ambushed by an army of Foot Clan ninjas. So he is thrown unconscious back into April's apartment just after she gets home, and the turtles are all forced to fight the ninjas that are incoming.
And there's quite a few.
There is loads. There are lots and lots. They all wind up in the antique shop below April's apartment after falling through the floor. At one point, when the ninjas are coming into April's apartment, there's a guy that comes very late on with some weapons.
Yeah, aye, just like a handful of weapons.
Yeah, I was like, where's this guy been? Where have they come from?
And the weapons guy was a bit trailed behind just because he had to carry all them weapons.
He did carry quite a few, but that's also a part contributing factor as to why they fell through the floor, because he was whacking an axe in the floor. They're soon outnumbered as Tetsuya arrives with reinforcements, and there's some hilarious banter within the fight scene in the antique shop.
Whoa! And I thought insurance salesmen were pushy.
I'm pretty sure that's Mikey. And he's just like, because they're really pushing in.
They really are. They're muscling their way in.
But I guess it's all quite, I think it's no twee, is it, to make an insurance salesman joke?
I
was
don't
like,
think so.
aye, insurance salesman, come on, I mean.
It is the classic cliche.
Aye.
And I think it's much less of a thing now that we buy insurance online.
But it still hounds you. Oh, your insurance is nearly up. Do you want to buy some more if you compare the meerkat or whatever?
True. Oh, that's this month for us.
I
Boo.
know, it's insurance month.
But anyway, it is what it is. Casey Jones suddenly appears in the antique shop to lend a hand.
And the other turtles have never met Casey before, so it's a bit of a surprise for them.
Who the heck is that?
Wayne Gretzky? On steroids?
I love the fact that Wayne Gretzky has been an icon clearly from like at least the 80s
Yeah.
and still lasts now.
So I don't know when he was with the Edmonton Oilers, but that was like I think it was like 9 seasons or something.
That is a
So it
good
was
chunk
like
of time.
ages, and that's why he's like the most famous hockey player in the world, apart from Tim Horton maybe. But
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky seems to be the most famous hockey player in the pop culture sort of bubble, isn't he?
Definitely. And it turns out that Casey Jones joins the fray because he is the person who had spotted Raphael on the roof doing his angry cartwheels.
Ah,
So Casey's arrival helps the turtles escape through a secret doorway as the building catches fire. And they manage to escape in April's van, and the ninjas retreat out of the shop. But you see April looking back quite sadly as her apartment and her dad's shop burned down.
it's a shame. She's just went on about how she's so attached to the place that she can't quite part with it, and then she comes to see it bloody burning down. But there's a few bits during this scene that I really enjoyed. One of which is Michelangelo having what I described as a chuck-off with one of the Foot Clan.
Yes.
And they're kind of showing off their nunchucker skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite fun. And the other bit is, I think it's Donatello gets his head dunked in a fish tank, and he just comes out and he spits the water in one of the ninjas' eye, one of the Foot Clan's eyes, and that cracked me up as well.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny.
There's a lot going on in this scene. Another thing I was wondering is, there's a bit, so one of the Foot Clan sort of chops a wire, and that's what starts the fire. And I was like, can that happen? And apparently if it's a live wire and you cut it, that can happen.
Oh, really?
Could
the
happen.
more you know.
Theoretically or potentially cause a fire.
Also, there seems to be a lot of flammable items in this shop. Everything seems really flammable. The fire takes hold quite quickly.
It does. And one thing I enjoyed here is like, so Casey Jones appeared and Kat just turned and went, "Here comes the Jones," for some reason. Do you remember this, no?
No.
You said that yesterday. I wrote it down because I burst out laughing. Here comes the Jones.
I stand by it. Here comes the Jones. You would be happy to see him, to be fair.
Aye, it is the definite backup that is required in this particular scene.
Yeah. I did also note at this point the person who does Michelangelo's voice, the accent is quite patchy.
It sounds almost English
Yeah.
at one point.
Also, just to mention that as the fire takes hold of the shop, you see Danny watching from afar.
He's rubbing his hands together and he goes, like the little rat that he is. Yeah, right. I made all that last part up.
Yeah.
Also, let's not be insulting him calling him a rat, no, in this particular movie.
Yeah, no, you can't use rat as an insult in this movie.
It's joked about a bit. It was joked about in the animated series quite a lot as well. Whenever somebody referred to somebody as a dirty rat, it's like, there's an episode, I was watching clips earlier on, and there's like, it was on a Reddit bit, and everybody's like, this joke never fails to land. And it's one of the episodes where like Master Shredder sends them a video message, which by the way, for the time is quite forward thinking.
That's super high tech.
And they're like, oh, and Michelangelo's like, "You dirty rat," and he turns into Master Splinter. He's like, "No offense," basically. And it's like, but aye, so yeah, Danny doesn't do that, but he does. He is watching.
Yeah.
He's a wee rat.
He is. I think he's having a conflict of a crisis of conflict.
Yeah, you see Danny sort of getting pulled in all different directions because he's not quite sure who actually cares for him and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler: it's no the Foot Clan.
No.
So at the Foot Clan warehouse, it appears that they've got a locker room, by the way, because
Yeah, I don't know why they've got a locker room.
that was the only bit note I had for this scene was Foot Clan lair, they have a locker room, lol. Because it's true.
Do you think that makes it a Foot Locker?
It is a Foot Locker.
Yeah, very, very odd setup they've got there. That must be where they store their Fly Guy costumes.
Fly Guy. But Danny he finds Splinter, who basically can sense, because he's very smart and very emotionally intelligent, sees that Danny's kind of got a conflict going on. And he comes out with this absolute belting piece of advice, which is class, and I absolutely loved it. Some say that the path from inner turmoil begins with a friendly ear. My ear is open if you care to use it.
Oh, Splinter.
What a ledge.
Totally. Do you think he's saying that because he's got part of his ear chopped off, so it's always open?
Probably. He had part of his ear sliced off by Shredder, by the way. I think that comes up soon.
It does.
I think it's really cool, because he's basically saying, you can talk to me if you want. I'm here to listen. Even though he's been strapped up to a friggin' wall, he's actually worried about this young lad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even before that line, there's one before it when Danny approaches and he says, how can a face so young carry so many burdens?
He does say that, yeah.
He's a very intelligent rat.
He is. And it's class, and I think it speaks to his deep paternal sort of instinct here, that he does that. So, and you know what this is? It's depth is what it is.
It is.
Which is, when we started watching this, is never a term I would have absolutely ever associated with this film. But there is actually a little bit of depth, and especially in this case, in this sort of storyline, really highlights it more than ever.
I think that makes total sense. You see Shredder being absolutely raging, and then he punches Splinter, and then he also punches Master Tetsu.
Yeah.
And then Master Tetsu also gets raging and then punches a trainee. So it's this absolute chain of abuse.
For God's sake. Yeah,
everybody's getting punched.
The rage punch chain.
Absolutely. So then it makes even more poignant the fact that Master Splinter is still just like, I'm super chill, dude.
There's a wee bit of confusion here, I think. I keep calling him Tetsu, and I think you're calling him both Tatsu and Tetsu. His name is Tatsu. I've just checked, double checked, because I honestly was picking it up as Tetsu last night when we were watching this.
Yeah, I also picked up in Tetsu in my notes, but when I was looking at the plot breakdown, it's noted down as Tatsu.
So it's Tatsu. So
okay.
Try and
we'll stick to Tatsu.
But Danny's basically saying to Splinter, my dad doesn't care for me and all the rest of it. But Splinter basically says, all fathers care for their sons. Despite Danny's sort of anger towards his dad, Splinter's like, nah, he does care for you.
Yeah.
So the Turtles, April and Casey decide to hide out at a farm that belonged to April's family, and everybody pitches in to make the place a bit more livable, including fixing an abandoned truck for some reason, and Raphael sort of stays unconscious and they keep him in the bath.
Yeah, we were wondering why they kept him in the bath.
Why is he in the bath and no bed? And then it turns out they're keeping him wet, because they are amphibians and it's not really spoken about that much.
I guess it makes sense that they'd have to keep him quite moist.
Did
it on purpose.
There's a reason that that's Randall's catchphrase in Recess, is because it's a gross word.
Moist.
He goes, moist.
He does.
Weird. Raphael basically stays unconscious, and Leonardo provides an endless sort of vigil watching over him, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of guilt that Raphael's not. Well, especially because the two of them argued, and that's how he ended up on the roof where he got jumped
exactly.
by the Foot Clan.
So it's all Leonardo's fault, basically, and he should feel terrible about it.
Luckily that's what he does.
I'm kidding, that's a shame. April recounts what happens that day in a sort of diary, and I found this whole thing very odd. And she draws sketches of the Turtles while trying to resist the charm that Casey puts on her. He's like, get a wee shoulder rubs in that, and it's like there's sort of something going on between the two of them. Because they're snipping at each other so much, and it's that whole sort of playground, I like a girl, so I'll throw a juice box at her head. I use that term because you see it in movies, American films and that all the time. Yeah,
hence the term juice box.
You see it in movies, I know, you see it in movies here too, and other things, and TV, but it is a total stereotype that probably runs the globe over.
Yeah, you're totally right. April's a very good artist.
She is, I know, phenomenally so. These drawings are a bit too good.
They're way too good.
Aye. But it's an interesting one. She's right, and I wrote it down, right? She kind of psychoanalyzes them all, but not all of them, only 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
And so she doesn't mention the other 2. And it's super odd. So they set up this whole scene where she's writing a wee diary and she's chatting about them, and it's like a monologue over shots of what they're up to, and it's super odd because it doesn't make any sense. She doesn't even cover all 5 of them.
No, she does 2 turtles and Casey, right?
Aye, I know, aye, and they're all of them are there. The 4 turtles and Casey are there, right? And what I've got here is I've written, right, she says Donnie is latching on to Casey, right? Because basically just because the two of them are hanging out, she's decided he's latching on to him.
Yeah, but the thing is, the two of them are fixing that car together.
And they're having fun.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? I think he's latching on to him, right?
No.
And then Leo, she's like, is keeping constant watch over Raph in the bath. And I'm like, right, okay. And then she's like, Casey's a chronic man-child. A 9-year-old stuck in a man's body and blah, 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 run.
Right.
And then she only does the three of them and then that's it. And I'm like, right, so if you're going to set up this little bit, surely go through all of them and what they're all doing in that moment. If you're going to give, I think the whole purpose of this scene is to give a snapshot as to how what's all happening and what's all going on with them in that moment.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to give you an overview of how everyone feels without going into how doing it in more difficult ways and more subtle ways. They're just doing it outright in black and white. But she only does have 3 of the characters out of the 6 that are there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why they do that?
Yeah, I think that's why they do that.
To give a sort of snapshot on how everybody's feeling and what everybody's thinking?
Yeah, and also just to kind of show you maybe that it's a little bit of time has passed.
Once Raphael comes to, the Turtles reconcile and resume their training. Despite their absence for the city, Shredder is hell-bent on finding them. And he tells Tatsu that their method of fighting reminds him of the past. Right, so what Raph comes to, right, and the Turtles sort of put their differences aside and they reconcile and resume their training, right? And at this, somewhere along this line as well, Raph goes back outside, by the way, stands on a building and shouts, "Splinter!" really loudly.
Yeah, he loves a shout.
Like, I know that April's referenced the fact that there's no other place around for about 4 miles, I think she says.
She does
right?
say that.
So you could probably get away with it, but still I'd be staying indoors. You know, anybody could be around. You're getting hunted.
Aye, also you've only just woken back up.
Like,
from
can
being
that TV show Hunted, where people go on the run and they try and not get found?
Yeah, they don't go around
He'd
shouting.
be absolutely pants at this.
Yeah, he would.
While meditating, Leonardo manages to sort of make contact with Splinter, because that's something they can do apparently. And Splinter sort of appears as like a force ghost over the fire.
So Star Wars.
I know, when the 4 of them sort of start to commune with him, and they all sort of share this vision, and Splinter's there in the sort of blue Force Ghost style. And I'm like, oh no, Splinter's died, but this is a different franchise, so that's not necessarily what is happening. And he tells them how proud he is of them and how they've mastered their training of the mind to become true ninjas. And then he disappears.
What
he
a
does
message.
tell them that he loves them here, and it's actually lovely.
It's so heartwarming them sitting around this weird blue fire.
The fire goes blue. The fire goes like bright blue, and then the Force Ghost Splinter of the alive Splinter appears above the fire. Sort of.
Yeah.
The Turtles decide that it's time to return to New York and to find and rescue their daddy.
This whole farm scenario, you know, where they're having their little wholesome country time.
Yeah, their little country family.
Yeah, there's a few things I really enjoyed. There's one bit where one of the turtles is using the katana to chop up food for cooking.
That's Casey.
Oh, was it Casey?
Yeah, Casey's cutting up a carrot, and I wondered, because he's using must be one of Leonardo's katanas to do it.
Yeah. It's just a very, like, I appreciate the farm being abandoned for a while, but they must have a knife.
And I was like, is he making soup? That's what I thought.
Oh, I'm not sure it's whether for
Carrots are very versatile. It could be in anything.
It could be in anything. And yes, at one point, Michelangelo brings out turtle wax for a shoulder rub.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like just looks at it, it's like, yeah, I was dead. I loved it.
It was so funny.
Found it much funnier than it probably is, but I loved it.
I also loved it. I thought it was very clever. And it's quite nice to see them. There is some nice bits of kind of comic relief in
their
this
little
section.
country family life.
Yeah, it's quite sweet. Culminated in their blue fire seance.
I know, I actually wrote here, I do not remember this, the blue fire thing at all.
So after their time in the farm, the turtles then return to their home and they find that Danny has been hiding out in a closet in their home.
A closet in the sewer.
Danny confides in April that he has ran away from his father, but will go back to him if he could just spend one night with the turtles at their home. Everyone agrees to let him stay, and April shows him one of the drawings that she did of the turtles, and he asks if he can keep it, and she says yes.
What I quite liked about this scene, right, is that they go back to where they live, and they're like, we need pizza, and there's a pizza box, and they're like, oh, pizza, and they open it up, and then it's like, I can't remember which one of them says to Mikey, you can eat it unless, something like, oh, I think it's done, unless you want some penicillin on your pizza, and it's all green and mossy and gross and mouldy. And it's like they have a little pizza funeral.
They do have a pizza funeral. I noted this down as well. It's
like, dur, 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 dur. And I'm like, that's me when my yogurt goes off. My Greek yogurt that I get, because I normally buy like a kilo tub. And sometimes I forget it's there. It's definitely become part of my daily sort of munch routine.
Yeah,
but,
very good.
Or diet is the other way to say that.
Yeah, I like munch routine.
Munch routine.
Yeah.
But no, so I felt for them here.
Yeah, I didn't think that was realistic at all because I don't think there would be any pizza left.
Nah.
So, but they did leave in a hurry, so maybe. During the middle of the night, Danny then abruptly leaves.
Because he's a rat.
Because he's a rat. However, Casey kind of clocks that and follows him. They go to the Foot Clan hideout where Danny, confused, he wants to seek out Splinter.
One rat to another.
Yes, indeed. Double rat. Casey is also trying to break into the Foot Clan hideout and just walks in.
Aye. I was like, he walks in and there's no way you're going to blend in, especially when you look about 100 years older than all the other kids.
Yeah.
There's quite an age range here, to be fair, because Sam Rockwell's clearly in about his 20s, and then the other kids are like 9 smoking cigars. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe Casey walking in, or a Robert De Niro lookalike swarming in amongst you isn't actually the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah. He gives me kind of Cape Fear vibes.
It does. Oh man, we were at the cinema. We went with Rob to see Thunderbolts. There was a guy laughing in the cinema, and I turned to Kat and I was like, Cape Fear. That's all I said to you, and you knew exactly what I meant.
It was so loud a laugh.
There are lots of funny parts in that film. Anyway.
Eventually, Casey does knock out one of the foot ninjas and steals his outfit.
Right.
So he gets himself finally concealed.
So Danny goes to see Master Splinter, and Splinter tells Danny about his time living in Japan with his master, Master Yoshi. And Splinter sort of imitated his master's practices, And you see this wee shot, and Kat loves this shot, You've always said this. And you just see this little tiny Master Splinter like, yeah, in his wee cage. Yeah, and he's doing his little ninjutsu moves.
I love it. It's so cute.
That's it. And Yoshi competed with a man called Oroku Saki. And both men also competed for the love of a woman. But she basically is like, instead of fighting over me, why don't we just leave and go to America? So they leave. Saki followed them though and quickly sort of killed both of them in a fit of rage. But Splinter escaped from his cage and he jumps at Saki's face and he scratches like, Wah!
Yeah, vicious rat attack.
Rat attack, right? He uses his rat powers to scratch his face. He has no powers at this point. He is just a rat, right?
He's just a normal rat.
So he uses his normal level of rat skills to scratch his face.
See, for a bit of rat can be really vicious.
Rat skills. I know, that's it. And he's scarred. He could be, aye. I've never met a vicious rat. All the rats I've met have been class. I have met rats. And basically, he scars his face, and Saki swings at Splinter, slicing off part of his ear, which is what we mentioned earlier, and then he disappears. So Danny asks what became of Saki, and Splinter's like, nobody knows. Ooh. But you're wearing his sigil on your headband, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, Oroku Saki is Shredder.
He is the Shredder.
Big surprises.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you know what I like at this bit as well? It's watching little Master Splinter when Master Yoshi gets killed. You see Splinter go over and he's got his little hands in Master Yoshi's hand.
It's so sad.
I know, and I'm like, oh no, it's horrible. Shredder discovers the two of them talking and he asks Danny where he's been before he sort of takes the drawing out of his pocket and now knows that where the turtles are, essentially.
Yeah, he knows that they are nearby.
That they're back. After Shredder sort of gives Danny a bit of a grilling, Shredder walks away to gather his forces and he tells Tatsu to kill the rats. Hearing this, Danny rushes away and he bumps into Casey in there, and Casey's like, oh aye, what's going on here then? But he explains that they have to rescue Splinter ASAP. They manage to get him out of his chains, but they're stopped by Tatsu and a team of ninjas.
Oh no.
To me here, right, this whole thing, it feels like Shredder's a toxic boss.
I agree. I would not want to work for Shredder.
No, nobody wants to work for this guy. He's no a very nice man.
He's also got a very sparkly jumpsuit.
In the words of Terence and Phillip, you're a bad man.
He is a bad man.
Does
with
he
a
have
fabulous jumpsuit.
Fabulous, does it?
Yeah, it's kind of this like red meshy material, almost like a Brillo pad.
Meanwhile, the Foot Clan sets out to ambush the turtles in their hideout, but they're surprised by a sneak attack. The turtles fiercely fight back and bring the conflict to the streets above. And it's actually class. At this point, right, I was like, this is a really fun fighting sequence. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of action at this point.
Aye, but what gets me is that this fighting sequence is better than the final one, which we're about to get.
Yeah.
And also is the fact that they did all this in those damn suits.
Absolutely.
How? It's crazy. Because and that's what I'm saying, like that's why this kind of thing's died out, because it's hard to do, right? It's hard to do, but what you do in the process is you create a timeless film because it doesn't age. Nothing looks bad, apart from, like I said, some people say the effects on the flashback sequences when Master Splinter's tiny and stuff. But I don't think so.
Even they don't look that bad, in my opinion.
But the thing is, the rest of the film just looks great. The new Turtles films, Michael Bay's ones, probably look terrible already. Do you know what I'm saying?
Technology moves so fast now.
Aye, which you can see CGI a mile off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I think, and I just think that this film doing it in this way, which is now sort of dying out now,
Definitely,
and which really saddens me. But it's fine because I've still got these great movies to watch anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there will always be filmmakers who still use traditional methods because they know it looks better and it's in their morals, and they know that their product will look better because of it.
Yeah, I think it's a totally dying art.
There's some part somewhere along here where Sam Rockwell's character is sort of sticking up for the situation. It's probably a Casey. He says that they're a family, and it sort of shows us that Shredder's probably had them believe that they are part of something.
I think this is it.
Because these kids need to be part of anything, and he's taking advantage of them in that situation.
He is. They're 100% being manipulated. And I think your analogy earlier about them being like the Lost Boys is not a bad one. And I think it's like all gangs, really. It gives these kids a sense of belonging that they might not necessarily be getting at home, and it fills a void, but actually in reality they're just being used. Aye,
it's a thing now. Everyone says it, there's not a lot for kids to do, and it always seems to have been a thing since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Kids didn't have anything to do these days because they need to be part of something, so they become part of something negative.
And poor Sam Rockwell's been brainwashed.
But I do enjoy it because during the fight there's a bit where Mikey says to April does something, and he goes, "Nice one, sis." And it's like, so there's this nice sibling relationship between them all now, and it's class.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that they've clearly really warmed to each other.
But I really enjoy it because there's a bit of shell punnery going on here.
Lots of shell
puns.
puns.
And I think it's Mikey and Donnie, I can't even remember, but there's two of them having a bit of discussion whilst they're fighting all these Foot Clan soldiers.
Looks like this one's suffering from shell shock.
Too derivative.
Why, yeah. Boy, I guess we can really shell it out.
Too cliched.
Well, it was a shell of a good hit.
I like it.
The exit, that's the one he likes, the one at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do quite enjoy their in the middle of a fight, they're still talking about puns because that's just what they do.
Yeah, I think that's very much captures the Turtles vibes.
That's probably why I enjoy this film so much, because it's very much my vibe.
Yeah, and they clearly enjoy doing ninjutsu, because at one point they'll turn around and go, "God, I love being a turtle."
That's right. Whilst they're fighting, Casey engages Tatsu in one-on-one combat, and he manages to overpower him. And before he leaves, that's where he questions the gang members about what they're doing here in this so-called family. And that's the bit I was talking about, where Sam Rockwell's like, "Oh, we're a family," and it's like, "Well, what you're doing here is quite bad, so maybe no do that."
Yeah, going to pack it in. After dispatching a few remaining ninjas, the Turtles are surprised by the sudden appearance of Shredder, who engages the Turtles in combat. Shredder turns up and does a very Joe Hendry turn. It's quite spectacular.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in the Shredder.
Yeah, local lad.
Not Shredder, Joe Hendry.
Yeah, no, Shredder's not from here. The Turtles prove no match for Shredder. Wild. When the Turtles ask about Splinter, Shredder mocks them and implies that Splinter is dead.
I know, it's a classic villain manoeuvre. Oh, aye, the person you're after, well, they're dead. Actually, Sauron does the same thing in Lord of the Rings. When he gets the mouth, in the extended cut, obviously, he gets the mouth of Sauron, who, I'm not going to go into who he is, right? If you know Lord of the Rings, you know who the mouth is, right? Mm-hmm. And he throws the mithril coat at Aragorn. It's because they've acquired it via other means. He's no deed and they didn't have him. But they're trying to make out they have, and it's exactly the same thing that happens here.
Yeah, but it makes Aragorn flinch.
It does.
In fact, no, it's not Aragorn that flinches.
It's one of the hobbits.
Yeah, that's right. And he's
I
like,
think Pippin's genuinely like, "No!" And then Gandalf's like, "No, didn't he?"
At cash.
He's having you on, mate.
Yeah, he's trying to goad you, which is very much the situation here.
So basically what we're saying is that Tolkien copied this.
Yeah.
Aye.
Obviously. 100%.
I'm of course joking, just to state that.
Yeah, please don't
really
send the
upset
hate.
Somebody.
Yes, this is all satire. Leonardo is obviously dead annoyed because upset that he thinks Splinter's dead, and he rushes towards Shredder, only to be pinned down by Shredder. The other turtles are forced to throw down their weapons because Shredder says, "Throw down your weapons or I'm gonna hurt Leonardo."
Right.
So
it doesn't quite say it like that, but it does. It's something along those lines.
Yeah, it's not word for word, but it's the impression.
Drop your weapons, dude, or I'm going to kill your pal.
Aye, basically, and they all throw them away, and Michelangelo's nunchucks, or nunchakus,
Nunchucks is fine.
Yeah. He throws them over the edge of the building, and one of them gets caught on the metal staircase that's famous on New York buildings.
Always.
I wonder what'll happen with that. Before another blow can be struck, Splinter appears on the roof and speaks to Shredder, addressing him as Orokusaki. And Shredder then charges at Splinter, but is flipped over the roof by Splinter's quick movements, using one of Michelangelo's discarded nunchakus.
Aye.
We knew we'd come back. We knew it. And using the coil of the nunchuck, Splinter holds Shredder precariously over the edge of the roof. Shredder then tries to throw a knife at Splinter, so Splinter lets go.
I thought this was totally counterintuitive. All right, so he's holding me over, and the only thing keeping me up here is him, so I'll throw a thing in his eye.
Yeah.
Like, what? Of course he's going to drop you.
Yeah. So Shredder falls down into the compactor of a bin lorry, and Casey is standing next to this bin lorry and just casually flips the switch.
Crushing Shredder's, his mask anyway.
Yeah, you see Shredder's mask getting crushed.
Yeah.
But the implication is that he has also been crushed.
Yeah. Or has he?
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, actually, I was just thinking about this there.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps the reason that he attacks Splinter is because he's so full of hate for this rat that he attacks him. He doesn't care what's going to happen to him, because the last thing he wants is this rat to show him any mercy. Just wants him dead.
I think this is exactly it.
He's just raging. He's basically full of rage.
Yeah. I think you're totally right.
Honestly, it's the way that Casey casually flips the switch, essentially murdering Shredder.
Yeah.
And he is kind of like, wait, there we go. Okay.
Whoops, looks what's happened. Uh-oh.
Whoopsie doodle. I mean, during all that as well, there's the bit where Leo gets knocked over. There's a bit where he basically makes a Wallace and Gromit face. It's exactly what it looks like. It's the only way I can describe it.
Excellent.
With the smile, like Ken with the teeth and that. And also, like, the fact that the scar on Shredder's face is like, how did a rat make that?
Yeah, it's
maybe
quite
rats
intense.
can be much more vicious than we think.
They definitely can be very vicious. But yeah, they're quite big claw marks for a rat that was supposed to be quite small at the time.
As stated, I've never met a vicious rat, only nice ones.
Well, there you go.
What's that mad for? There's a mad fact that they say you're never that far away from a rat, especially when you're in a major city.
Yeah, you're never more than like a metre from a rat.
Ugh.
I've seen quite a few.
You're in these parts, there's a bit of a rat issue, because there's a big university nearby.
Yeah.
And a lot of population in this kind of what used to be a very country-orientated area.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it's mostly in the city I've seen them.
Yeah.
Like, and I saw when I was down in Leeds, I saw a couple down there.
The other thing too, right, the fight, like I said this a minute ago, but the fighting sequence is poor, this last fighting sequence. You think, we're going to get Shredder versus the Turtles, and it's crap, quite honestly.
It's quite a damp squib.
We've seen them have some great fights in those suits, which are very restrictive and everything. So we know it can be done. But then when they get to the Shredder sequence, it's like they just kind of like, we'll just make it, this happens. And it's not very, it's not very tense, and it's not very exciting.
No.
So I found it quite disappointing. But yeah, the movie had entertained me up to this point. So
yeah. And I think he's just like, right, chuck your weapons away. And they're like, okay.
Aye. Basically.
And it's not even like, I'll chuck them a little distance away. It's like over the side of a building.
Okay. Anyway, after he's been crushed, the Turtles reunite with Splinter, and the police arrive on the scene to question the remaining Foot Clan folk, who basically, and it's Sam Rockwell, and he's like, this is where you'll find all the stolen goods, by the way. April then prepares to run a final update on the story when the news crews sort of arrive, and she has a wee kiss with Casey, because she's all like, are you going to kiss me or not? Or something like that.
Yeah, she's quite a fierce lady, and I quite like it. In that she also negotiates herself a good deal for presenting the news again. So she's like, yeah, I hear that this person's the top paid reporter in all of New York. I think that's me now, is what
nicely done.
Says, which is good.
Do you know what as well? We've only seen her with a yellow coat on at the start. Did you notice this?
I did notice
I was just thinking, in my head, every time I think her, she's got a yellow coat on. She doesn't. She only has it on in that first scene where she gets mugged.
Yeah, well, it's a piece of
unless she has it on later. I don't know.
No, she doesn't.
I'm encroaching on trivia territory. Sorry.
You are a little bit, but it's not included in this week's trivia just because there's so much trivia.
Yeah.
But apparently Judith Hoag really didn't like the idea of having the yellow jumpsuit.
Right.
So they had mocked it up, and she just was like, absolutely no way. So she relented to have the yellow coat in the beginning of the film, and then that was where the line was drawn.
She could have had it a couple of times, man.
Yeah.
At least, a nod.
I agree.
Like there's nods in the X-Men movies to their ridiculous suits.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
Which I say ridiculous suits, but then obviously Wolverine ends up sporting that very suit in the latest Deadpool movie.
He does.
The Turtles cheer and they exchange slang exclamations. So basically they're all just like, hey, try to chuck out these phrases because they're all very excited. Awesome!
Boom!
Bodacious!
Yeah. Bitchin'.
Gnarly!
Radical.
Totally tubular, dude.
Wicked.
Hellacious!
I have always liked COWABUNGA. Huh? COWABUNGA! All right. I made a funny.
It's that whole thing with Master Splinter about how he's no cracking the jokes in that, and it's like they do it right up to the end, and then he's like, I made a funny, and I love it. It's class.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a nice warm ending.
Totally. And on that sort of lovely wee cosy moment, that's where the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ends.
And wasn't it a cowabunga-tastic journey?
It was totally righteous and radical.
So, Mikey, what did you think of this film?
It's the Turtles, man. For me, right, it's a comforting nostalgia thing, you know. I think it's really fun. It's entertaining. It encapsulates the Turtles quite well. I guess maybe in the animated series they sort of have jobs almost that they slot into, and that's lesser seen here a wee bit. Like, you know, Donatello's the tech guy. Donatello does machines. That's part of the song, you know. Mm-hmm. Like, and they all have a thing they do, and that doesn't get fully explored here, but it does give you an introduction. If you didn't know who the Turtles were, you do now. You know what I mean? It's action's really good considering these guys are in these very restrictive suits. Mm-hmm. Bar the last fight, as I mentioned. I think it's got a pretty good story, and I think they focus on the family thing and that he is their dad, and there's no questions about that, and that's class. Do you know what I'm saying? And I also think in the last part, and the biggest thing for me, is it's a really good portrayal of the dying art of puppetry and prosthetics and practical effects that have such an effect that it still looks great now. You know what I'm saying? Because all the stuff you see there is real and has been filmed with a camera. Mm-hmm. And this kind of thing is only going to phase out more now because of the advent of AI. I can see it coming, and it sucks. But it's going to start appearing in movies where it's going to be easier to use AI to do things. Possibly. That's where we might go. It might not. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But the fact is, like, right now, we can look back at that beautiful little time capsule and see how hard these guys worked to get that effect across. Mm-hmm. And that means everything to me to watch. Mm-hmm. And that's why that's the biggest thing for me, probably. And not to mention it's the Turtles. So, like, do you know what I mean?
This is it.
What about you? Do you agree or what?
I do agree. I think what they did with the budget is absolutely incredible.
Aye, when you looked at that budget there, it wasn't that high. Like.
No. And I think, what they managed to do with the mixture of animatronics, puppetry, and the sort of fiberglass costumes they had is insane. Like, you couldn't imagine that these days. It's wild. Yeah, and I totally agree with you around there's not as much differentiation between the different turtles as much, and I don't think you get to see as much of their character as you did in the animated series.
Nah.
But as an introduction to the franchise as a whole, I think it was pretty good. And
it's like you say, it isn't, and I know the Turtles had been around since '84, but that is only 6 years. A lot of people didn't know who they were probably until they saw this.
Well, this is it, and it was a little bit later than '84 than the animated series came out, and that was really when they took off. Because not everybody would have read the comics.
It's certainly the case now, even with Marvel, you know? I mean, the thing is, you've mentioned the suits there, and I've certainly mentioned them a couple of times, but I don't think we've really said that, actually, you know, these suits could only be worn for a very short space of time. It was something like a space of minutes, like in a few minutes at that.
They must have been so uncomfortable.
Aye, but that means that they had to stop shooting that often. Mm-hmm. So to get what they had at the end of it, it must have been a ridiculous amount of work. All right, get the guys out the suits, give them a break, get them back in, let's do another shot. Yeah. Oh, but that take didn't work out. We'll get the suits off, we'll have to try again. Yeah. It's so much work. Mm-hmm.
And especially, it's surprising that didn't cut into the budget, like it didn't kind of inflate it.
Aye.
You know, just with the length of time it would have taken. Like, you know, you got to pay all those people to stay on for longer.
I just think it's so awesome that we have that. Regardless of what you think, this is just a Turtles movie. I get that 100%. But look at all the work that went in to make that look the way it does. Folk didn't always think about that, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's clearly like a labour of love of sorts.
Totally.
You know, a lot of care and attention to be put into it.
Well, I always look online, and we always talk about this, and I know that when you look online, you've got to be careful because there's a lot of nonsense out there, but I do tend to have a rummage to find genuine comments from people, you know. For what I could see, generally people agreed in the fact that it's, you know, the action's pretty good, and the thing with the nostalgia, there's a huge nostalgia level here. for sure. Especially anything to do with the Turtles is going to have that. Do you know what I mean? Because they're such a cultural 80s icon.
Yeah.
They remind everyone of the 80s, and so folk about my age, 87, the animated series came out, I would have been 3 when this film came out. Huge part of your consciousness for them. You know the Turtles.
This is it.
They've always existed. To me, they've always existed. Do you know what I mean?
I think particularly for this film as well, it had a re-release in some theatres for its 35th anniversary.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah, because I think the 30th anniversary fell on 2020, obviously, so it wasn't a prime time for cinema, unfortunately. So they seem to have done something for the 35th anniversary.
A lot of the folk, somebody on, I think I found an article about this. It was actually a BuzzFeed article that was like, and it was written in 2014.
Oh, wow.
So it was it must have been when the new film was coming out, the new Turtles Michael Bay one was coming out. They wrote this article and it was like 5 reasons the new Turtles makes the original 1990 film look like a masterpiece.
Oh, wow, okay.
And so I will link that into the show notes as well, and it was really cool. But it was like, folk are saying that there's like themes of integration and self-discovery there as well. Like it's all about, like we see in Raph, many times Raph goes out with his disguise on and stuff. And I think there's more stuff later maybe that kind of shows that them wanting to blend in and wanting to kind of be out there, but they can't, kind of, you know what I mean? And like folk are saying too that there's a surprising amount of character development. I'm not sure I would agree with that, and I think that there's no loads, but there is some for some characters, and it was more than I thought there was, I guess.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And the general thought here as well is that this film had a huge impact on the franchise as a whole. So a movie coming out is a huge deal. More people see it. You saw those figures for the toys, we said. It was something like 400 million in 1990, which was the end of this year, and this was March this came out that year. So, you know, definitely if you're looking at the finances, if so many people are going out and buying Turtles stuff, that just goes to show how big they were and probably how much more this film shot them into superstardom. In terms of people not liking it, obviously there's an element of that here, and online a lot of folk were saying that it's over-appreciated as a term I found used.
Oh, wow, okay.
I think that was on, it was a Reddit, I've got it here, a Reddit thing, and I thought that was an interesting concept, that something can be overappreciated because of the nostalgia factor. Because of the nostalgia factor, you go, oh, it was so awesome, and actually maybe it isn't as good as you maybe think it was, which is maybe the case.
Yeah, and we talked about already about the fact that nostalgia factor can be a bit blinding.
Aye, it is, and but I can't look past it because it's the Turtles, so I struggle.
Of course, but the thing is, that's why it's good. There's 2 of us. Like I didn't grow up with this film. Like I've only seen it once before this turn. Yeah,
wait till we get to Turtles 3 though, so I might not feel the same way. But the other thing was people saying lack of character development, which coincides people saying that there was character development, which I think I kind of agree with this, but there wasn't loads, you know what I'm saying?
I think certain characters had some character development.
I think Splinter does a lot.
Yeah.
I think Raph does a bit.
I agree, Raphael.
Maybe April, I don't know, really. No, really.
Not really.
You know.
Career development, yes.
Career development, she does well on that front. But if anything, it's Danny and Splinter, largely. It focuses on Danny's whole thing going on, you know what I mean? With him knowing where he belongs, and Splinter saying, well, this is where you belong. And I guess to a degree, the Turtles, like when Raph goes out with his disguise on and that, it's because he wants to go outside and doesn't he want to be shut up in the sewer? And I guess that's maybe a wee bit pinch of depth there.
A little pinch, a little soupçon.
A little pinchette. But the other thing was, right, and this really annoyed me, I saw somebody say this, that the CGI in the later movies is superior to the way that this film looks.
Controversial.
And I actually wrote in big letters in my notes here, I didn't actually want to finish what I said, but that's what I wrote because I was that annoyed when I read it.
Yeah.
How can you say that? How can you say, oh no, the CGI is way superior to what they can do then? And it's like, but it's no a real thing.
I know. And that's it, I think.
And CGI has its place. It's made amazing movies for us. I've watched everything Star Wars have put out nearly. No watched Skeleton Crew yet. Not Andor, so perhaps not. But newer films have these great effects and I really appreciate them. They're great and they have their place. But a film like this is timeless because of the way it looks.
I agree.
Because films don't look like that anymore. And we're not going to see any more films like this. So that's why this is really important to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really agree. And I think if there had been... I also don't like when there's like a blend of the 2 techniques. I think sometimes that can be quite jarring.
We saw that in Evolution.
Yeah.
At times there was CGI, but then other times there were big sort of ape suits.
This is it, yeah.
Purple or blue.
Yeah.
Up for discussion.
blue.
I think they're probably blue, yeah. But no, you're right. Aye, the blend can be sometimes like, oh, the thing is, if you see it with Ray Harryhausen, right, and they used the stop motion animation and blew it up sort of thing, or whatever how the way they did that, it still looks class.
It does.
But it doesn't look, it's not fluid, it's not smooth, but it's charming.
It is, that's it. It's got the riz.
And oh, don't, we're not allowed to say that. It is much more charming, but this stuff, you know, the CGI stuff, and didn't get me wrong, I went to see, I think, the first Michael Bay Turtles, and I watched one of the, I think there was two, and I watched those, and I found them entertaining because it was Turtles, you know, and they really ramp up the Turtles characters on those, like Donnie's a total dork, and I love it, and it's class.
But yeah, they should lean into that.
Yeah, they should, but in terms of the way it looks, it's a no-brainer. This knocks the other ones out the park for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And then people might not agree with that, and that's cool, and if you do, tell us.
Yeah.
I know I just got very angry there, but it's cool. I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
You can try and
I'm
convince
not going to
us
get
otherwise.
mad. I'm going to read your opinion out and let everybody know it, because that's what we do here.
Certainly another criticism that I've seen is that some people think it's too violent and that the violence is realistic of sorts. And I think they're not necessarily talking about the ninjutsu violence. I think it's more like Shredder getting crushed in a bin lorry.
Yeah. It's pretty grim. Like, the fact, it's just, I even found it yesterday when he flicks the switch, he's like, whoops. And I was like, he's just murdered that man.
Yeah, very flippant about the murder.
Batman wouldn't have that. There was a Batman Turtles crossover.
Yes, and when Raphael comes out of the cinema, it's Critters that's on the...
Oh, no way!
Yeah, it's Critters that's on the
Great movie.
the board. And actually it was intended to be Batman on the board.
Ah, yeah, okay. So they did something, it must have been an animated thing then. They did together. But in that animated one, I know that's one of the only other times that Donatello dropped Bossa Nova.
Oh, no way.
In that, and in Injustice 2. So they were in Injustice 2.
Cool.
All the Turtles, apparently. We have that. We should really see if the DLC's there. But
there you go.
it's on a PS4 though, I think.
No, R.I.P.
I know. Switch 2's just been wheeled out. The PS4 has been moved to the side. But no, like, he says Bossa Nova in that as well. So it's something that this was the first time it appeared. And then they've sprinkled it throughout as it being a sort of Donatello joke.
That's nice.
The only people who are proper nerds will be like, class.
That's really cool.
I like that. I love it.
Why not?
Anyway, I feel like we're encroaching on trivia space, Cat. So should we just go into the trivia and you can tell me all your wonderful trivia?
Let's do it.
Yes, trivia time.
So our first bit of trivia is that Robin Williams, who was apparently a big fan of the franchise,
That's cool. I feel like Robin Williams would like the Turtles. I get that.
He provided Judith Hoag with information regarding her character through his comic book collection. The two of them were co-starring in Cadillac Man of 1990.
So there's another movie that Judith Hoag was in then that we didn't know.
Yeah, I've not heard of Cadillac Man.
Did we mention that? I don't think we mentioned it earlier, but I haven't heard of it. So
yeah, they were co-starring in Cadillac Man when the Turtles film went into production. So interestingly, this film was the highest grossing independent film until The Blair Witch Project of 1999, having made $135 million in the domestic box office and $66 million in the foreign box office.
it blows my mind. Like, I've just sat here to you and talked about for ages about how good this film looks, and it's an indie movie. You know what I mean?
And also, I think it's easy to forget how old it is. So one of the early ideas for this film was that it would be similar to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where the actors would interact with animated characters.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, I think it would have been quite
That could
cool.
have worked for this, eh?
But in the end, what they decided to do was go for the Jim Henson Creature Shop
Yeah.
to do the costumes.
100%. And I hadn't even looked, right? We were chatting. I think I said Jim Henson earlier, and I knew that. I was like, it had to be.
It has to be. It's got their brand all over it.
Yeah, it's aye.
So the turtle suits were created by Jim Henson's Creature Shop, as we said, and they were really cumbersome and uncomfortable to wear, as we've already mentioned. Raphael got knocked into a trash can by Casey Jones. The face and the animatronics inside the head caved in and broke the stuntman's nose. Apparently you can see it. As Raphael gets up from the trash can, he can be seen grabbing his nose area before the shot just cuts. The stuntman that was playing Raphael then had to be replaced by one of the ones who was playing the foot soldiers. He was named Ken Scott, and Ken did a lot of the major scenes as a foot soldier, including the nunchaku face-off against Michelangelo.
Oh, so that was him.
Yeah, he was the nunchuck guy. To help disguise how cumbersome and slow the costumes were, the dialogue scenes were shot in 23 frames per second, so that they were played at normal speed of 24 frames per second. They appear to be a bit sharper.
That's wild technology sort of for the time, because like, no, what I mean is like, it's just so different from what we do now. Like, remember when Peter Jackson made The Hobbit and it was in 30 frames per second?
It looked
we went to see it and we were like, oh, my eyes, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, did you remember? Because
I
it
do
looked odd,
remember.
and then now we're used to that sort of thing. But it's funny that.
It's so strange. I do remember seeing. I remember coming out and then I was talking about it and about how it looked like sets. Like, it just looked so strange.
I mean, there is all sorts of strange little effects in this movie where he speed things up or whatever, isn't there? Like, I seem to think this for some reason.
There is, and actually for the same reasons, the fight scenes were actually shot in 22 frames per second.
Right.
So that probably explains why they kind of do a lot of the kind of, you know, cartoonesque.
Aye, but it's that, like,
bits.
you could say it's cartoony, but maybe like that kind of looks like an old kung fu film or something as well. Like,
Yeah, I can see
do you
that.
know what I mean? Like, maybe that's the style they were going for. Like, I don't know.
So Shredder and the Foot Clan's hideout was filmed at an abandoned cement factory called the Ideal Cement Factory outside of Wilmington, North Carolina, in Castle Hayne. This location was also used as a set for Dino Hatton in the Super Mario Bros. Movie of 1993
Oh,
and Top Dollar's nightclub in The Crow of 1994.
all right.
Yeah, so quite a famous area.
Aye, that's cool. And you know, that Super Mario movie has its own following, doesn't it?
It does.
It's very odd. I remember seeing it as a kid and being like, what is this?
I remember seeing it as a kid and loving it. My mum and dad did not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a wild one. I'd really look forward to revisiting that. So maybe we can like figure out where to slot that in somewhere, because that would be a good one to do.
So, as we discussed earlier, Corey Feldman was the voice of Donatello, I think.
Yeah,
Let
he's
me just-
Donatello, yeah.
Okay. He was the voice of Donatello. And he said that he was offered only $1,500 to do the voice work for the film.
Bart, I'll take it. I'll do it for that much.
Well, yeah, but he's Corey Feldman in the 90s. You know, he's a big star.
I know, it's actually a piss poor amount of money for to ask somebody to do that.
He is. It gets a bit worse, where he accepted, believing the producers who told him that it was only a small, low-budget independent film, hoping that it would have moderate success on VHS if they were lucky. The movie ended up making millions of dollars in the box office, as we know, so he was kind of a bit shortchanged, unfortunately. But yeah, that is the end of our trivia section this week.
Cool. Some interesting stuff there. And I'm just glad that I managed to successfully spot that this was absolutely a Henson-related product.
Yeah.
Because you can tell.
Actually, little bonus trivia for you here.
Oh, aye.
This is the last motion picture that Jim Henson actively worked on before he died.
Oh, wow. It's a pretty big one then.
Yeah. So, Mikey, did you manage to hear a Wilhelm scream in this?
I did not hear one, and then I was like, well, I'll check, because I said I was going to start doing that. And there is not one in this movie.
Okay, that's good, because I also didn't hear one, so I was glad I didn't miss it.
Sad. We actually heard it in something else the other day, though. What was that?
It was in a game we were playing. Was it in Split Fiction?
I think it was in Split Fiction, aye.
Yeah.
It was Split Fiction. We heard the Wilhelm scream and we're like, no way. All the things, eh? I think we spoke about that, but we got the Switch 2 and we got a Split Fiction because it was a release game. And it's so much fun. It's wild. It's so good.
It's been brilliant fun.
It's a co-op game, and one of you plays a sci-fi writer and one of you plays a fantasy writer, and to cut a long story short, they sort of, both characters end up in each other's worlds. And you have to team up and solve puzzles and stuff, and we're absolutely loving it. It's great.
Yeah, we're doing really well at it as well.
I think once we're done, I want to do it again and swap over, and I'll do the other last and you can do the other last. And
Yeah,
we'll
I
do
think that sounds good.
But no, it's been great. Between that and Mario Kart World, we've been playing it quite a bit. So
We have indeed. It's been good fun.
So, Kat, do you have a favourite line for this movie?
I do. And it's quite early on, and it's the Wise Man pizza line.
Oh, I absolutely loved that one too. It was great. Classic Mikey Bantz.
Hey, this is a 10. The tab's 13.
You're 2 minutes late, dude.
Ah, come on. I couldn't find the place.
Wise men say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Mikey knows.
He does, eh?
He knows. And also, I think your impression kind of slips into Wayne from Wayne's World a little bit.
Oh, but does it? Oh. I
love
liked
it,
you,
though.
like, this is a 10. That was you.
That was me. What about you, Mikey?
There's too many in this movie, but like I'll work up to my favourite, because my favourite's no exactly a funny one, right? But I like, you gotta know what a crumpet is to understand cricket from Raph. That one
Yeah.
cracks me up. And I also really like, you dirty rat, you stole my
Obvious.
bread and butter. Can that one?
Yes, obviously. I thought you
Aye.
might like that one.
And that one, absolutely. There's loads, but the one that really stands out for me is because it's such a poignant quote from Master Splinter, is when he's talking to Danny about how to get that he can talk to him if he wants to, and that the best thing he can do to offload is to share his problems with another person. And the way that Master Splinter puts that is way better than I just did. Some say that the path from inner turmoil begins with a friendly ear. My ear is open if you care to use it. Class quote.
Wise words indeed.
Absolutely love it. He is. Master Splinter's like Yoda to me, like when I was a kid.
Yeah, I
So
can see
like
the
before
comparison.
Yoda, I had Master Splinter because Yoda wasn't really an entity until I was 11.
Which is wild.
Maybe. It was 1997, so it would have been 10.
Yeah.
Because that's when they released all the movies in the cinema. My dad took me to see each Star Wars film each weekend.
We also attended those screenings.
Aye, at the UCI at the Fort.
We were probably in the same theatre.
I know, that blows my mind because that's probably because I think they only showed once a week
I think so too.
on the
yeah.
weekend. So you were
It was
probably
a
in that room at
Saturday.
the time. How weird is that?
Crazy.
But my dad took me to those, and so but before that, the wisest sort of character I was aware of, you know, because when you're a kid, it's no the people around you, it's what you see,
Oh yeah.
and the characters you see. It was Master Splinter for sure. So, favourite sound? Did you have a sound that stood out to you in this movie?
Yes. It was when April mentions frozen pizza and Michelangelo rises from the sewer. That's the one.
What was that, man?
What is it?
I have no idea, but it's hilarious and well placed. And I'll tell you, I actually ripped that sound and I put it into our impression because it was only a split second. I'm sure nobody's going to mind.
Yeah, don't tell.
It was a great sound. So good that they used it twice because it's also my favourite sound.
All right.
Which was later on in the movie where
Oh.
Donnie, I think it's Donnie, gets his head dunked into a fish tank and the foot soldier clan pulls his head out and he spits water in his face.
Oh yeah, it goes like a little fountain.
I actually have the sound so you can see that it's the same one.
Oh,
it's
slightly tone.
lower pitch there actually, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ah.
That's the first time I've listened to them side by side, so it's sort of the same sound but a lower pitch.
And they slowed it down a little bit, I think.
Slowed it a little bit, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
we'll hear it again. We'll hear them both again. Let's do Michelangelo coming out the sewer, and then let's do Donnie spitting the water.
Oh yeah, definitely
Slightly
the same
different.
sound.
Yeah, it's the same sound though, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually had another one listed, and we talked about this, and it was the woman who makes a sound when her TV is stolen right at the start. She's sitting on her balcony, and her TV gets nicked.
And she kind
And
of
she
goes
goes-
like,
she-
ooh.
She sort of goes, huh? But unfortunately, I couldn't get the sound because the lady that's narrating doing the news report talked right over it.
How rude.
So I know, so we couldn't use that. But that was another honourable mention, let's say.
Yeah.
And as for if they said the name of the film in the film, well, nobody says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, do they?
No, they do not.
They say turtles. I think they say teenage.
They definitely
Nobody
say ninjas.
says mutant.
Nobody
I don't
says
think.
mutant, I don't think.
So no.
However, I did appreciate when the titles came up, and it was the style of titles from the animated series
Yeah, it was so cool. Eh?
with the trademark and all.
I just love the music at the start of this movie, and that's why I didn't actually talk about it earlier, but I was all excited when we started this episode. But that's that music. It's that and it's weird because it's music that reminds me of watching it as a kid.
Oh,
so
amazing.
it's got a class connotation there. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolute joy when I hear it. I don't even know if it's on Spotify. If it is, I really should
Oh, we'll need to find out.
listen to it when I'm at the gym and that.
What a way to get yourself pumped up. So, Mikey, I'm absolutely ready for you to read me some reviews of this movie.
Yeah, so these are the audience reviews, just to remind you. So the first reviewer says, after 35 years, I finally saw my favourite movie on big screen. Oh, sorry, just a reminder, I'm reading these as they're written, okay?
Verbatim.
In some cases, characters may have been missed, or maybe English isn't somebody's first language. If that's the case, I'll try and make it clearer and help a wee bit.
I'm the perpetrator of many a typo, so
Me
I can't
too.
say anything.
But I think typos are part of the fun here. When it's a typo, it gives me the giggles.
Yeah, me too.
Do you know what I mean? But if it's somebody whose English isn't their first language, I'll try and alter where I can. But aye, sorry, it's after 35 years, I finally saw my favourite movie on big screen. Thank you. Greatest movie of all time. This movie should be in theatres on a yearly basis. I would go and see it. Maybe not on a yearly basis, but I'd like to see it in the cinema.
I'm not sure.
No, you wouldn't go and see it on the big screen.
I think probably. I've seen worse.
Jaws is 50 years old this year. It looks like But nobody's said, but I think there'll probably be screenings. Will you go to that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What if they were in a pool? I've said this before. If I could afford it, I would rent a pool and I would screen Jaws and would get rubber rings for everybody and have like a party where you sit in the pool on a rubber ring and you watch Jaws.
I don't know, it gives me the fear when that...
I think it's been done before elsewhere. But
yeah, I've seen it before.
I love the idea and I'd love to like arrange that. No idea how I would, no.
Yeah, we can make it work.
I think this person may not have been a native English speaker, so as I mentioned a second ago, I'll try and paraphrase a wee bit. I'll just kind of edit as I go, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first Turtle movie is the best as far as I'm concerned. Nothing beats the shell out of the dark tone. I agree with that. I actually was on Reddit earlier when I was searching for something else for this film. And somebody had said on Reddit that they were like, I can't believe 8-year-old me were so into this. But it was so dark. It was like the darkest thing 8-year-old me had ever seen.
Yeah.
Because it's quite dark.
It's very dark.
And somebody had commented, I loved that back then Casey Jones crushing the shredder and a crusher was PG. Because it was.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of the trivia that I didn't use mentioned that people were not happy about the level of violence. Like, I think Judith Hogue wasn't very pleased about it.
Oh, it's not that bad. Well, I guess no compared to now, but I guess with it being the Turtles and it kind of being aimed at kids, that might be why people might have been upset then, and probably maybe would be now, I guess.
Yeah, I think Jim Henson also wasn't best pleased.
Aye. Well, to be fair, it looks great though, so thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
I also loved the Jim Henson puppet performers and the screenplay. And the Shredder is one scary dude you don't want to mess with in prison. In prison!
Yeah, he doesn't go to prison, he gets crushed.
I know, well, I famously, but I guess like he's just, maybe this guy's got prison experience and he's like, see, when I was in prison, I would know how to mess with the Shredder.
Maybe there's no judgment here.
The Turtles themselves have great personalities, as well as Judith Hogue as April O'Neil. And let us not forget Eli Koteas as Casey Jones. He's the funniest human character in the movie.
All right, okay, so clearly making a definition between humans and turtles there.
That's it. He's like, well, the turtles are on another scale of hilarious. The humans are different.
Yeah, out of the 4 human characters, he was the funniest.
The Shredder count, right?
Yeah.
Tatsu, April, Casey, aye.
Basically, yeah.
And then
Danny
like
and
the
his
police
dad.
chief and some other randoms, but like in the main sort of, you know, and all the Foot clan, assuming they're human, which they are. The action is also very entertaining, on par with a Bruce Lee movie.
We have said this.
Well, we're just talking about kung fu films and the style and everything, and I feel that they've kind of borrowed that here, like, to a degree. So, yeah, this person was correct. That's a good
I
review.
agree with them. Yeah.
Our next reviewer says, this is one of the best movies I have ever seen. It's a statement, eh? Would 100% recommend anyone that wants to see it. Absolute masterpiece. The comedy, the thriller, the music. Everything was not just up to par, but it exceeded my expectations of what a fantastic movie would be. I love this.
I like the fact that this is unashamedly just, I love this movie.
Aye, totally. They love it. And they want everybody to know.
That's fair.
More people should be like that. If you like something, tell people you like it.
Yeah.
I was saying this to nieces the other day, or I was like, at some point, where it's like, with me, it feels like when I hit at some point in my life, I realised it was actually alright to just embrace all the dorky stuff that I loved. And music to a degree. When I grew up, it wasn't cool to like metal music, right? At all, right? We were the only ones, me and my 3 pals or whatever it was, were the only ones that liked it. And so we were the weirdos and the geeks kind of thing. It wasn't easy to just come out with the fact that you like stuff, but when you get to a certain age, especially once you get out of school, you start to embrace the stuff you love, and then you're like, it's all right to just wear it on your sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's much more acceptance of people liking different things now.
Yeah.
Like, geek culture is quite cool, actually.
This person, I feel like they've just been really excited as they've been writing it, right? So I'll read it as I feel as excited as they were when they wrote it, right?
All right, guys, you might want to be on the volume buttons.
Yeah. A better movie. This movie is better than Gremlins, 1984. And this movie has good music, good CGI, good graphics, etc. This movie will always guide me whenever I am down or sad. This is pure comedy. This movie should be my guide. That last part, what? This starts wild and it just gets unhinged.
Yeah, it does. I'm not sure whether they're trying to go down the route of like, oh, you know, I've got a comfort movie.
Aye, I've got a comfort movie, but they're just so excited they've just like verbal diarrhea when it runs to mouse.
Totally, yeah, just like have a, you know, this movie should be my guide. Like they mentioned it once
This
and then
movie
they doubled it.
It's in caps as well. This movie should be my guide.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means either. As I say, I wonder if they're leaning on like comfort movie.
I know we spoke about people not English being a second language, but it's in good English, so I think that's the case here.
Yeah, no. This person's just very enthusiastic.
Continuing the theme of people loving this movie, this movie will not enrich your child's worldview.
No.
But it's still a radical time.
Oh, radical.
It's definitely very 90s. However, I find that adds to the charm. And I still think the characters are enjoyable. And the action scenes are always a joy to watch. Plus, I also apprenticed that the movie still has emotional core. So if you're a fan of the TMNT, or just goofy superhero movies in general, check this one out. Cowabunga, dude!
Cowabunga. I do like this review though, because it's basically the core of it saying this movie has heart, which I totally agree with, and also that, okay, it's not going to change your worldview, but you're going to have a good time.
Aye, true. Like, I like how it starts with sort of negative and then it just goes kind of wild after that.
Yeah, the caffeine hit after the first ellipsis.
And our last reviewer really kind of puts the point across, I think, that a lot of us are thinking with this first sentence. How does this movie have 42%? And they put it in caps because they're really...
Yeah, they're feeling it.
This movie is a cinematic masterpiece of puppets and stunts. Not only does it stay true to the comics, it also makes the comics better by adding coloured bandanas and personality like the show. But the show was goofy, and this ain't. Definitely a 5 out of 5 in my book.
Well, what a review. But also, I would disagree that I think this movie is pretty goofy.
It is, aye, totally. And also the thing there about the coloured bandanas is it's just suggesting that they don't have those in the comics.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Well, I've just had a wee look and I found a cover of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1. And they've all got red bandanas. So they must have they've got different weapons, but they must have not had the different coloured bandanas in the comics originally. Some of the later comics, that appears to have changed.
Okay.
But that's interesting, eh?
Yeah, that is interesting. I think they would be missing without their coloured bandanas.
I know, eh?
We should take a quiz. Which Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle are you?
We should. Do you want to do it right now?
Yeah, found one from a very reliable source. The Beano.
Yeah, the Beano! Excellent, let's do this. Okay, so we've just done the Turtles quiz. Kat, who did you get and what does it say?
I am Donatello, which is unsurprising.
He's a wee scientist guy, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That's what it says. You're the team's scientist and inventor, and you're always coming up with new plans. You wear a purple eye mask and your weapon is the bow. You're always looking after your fellow turtles and you're finding clever ways to defeat Shredder. What about you?
I'm Michelangelo.
Shocker.
It says, you're Michelangelo, the least grown up of the turtles. You're always making daft jokes and usually prefer eating pizza to training. Your weapon of choice is nunchucks, and despite being the joker of the group, you're very useful in a fight. Cowabunga. Cowabunga.
So we're now at the ranking stage, Mikey.
Yeah.
If for you, is this movie fresh or rotten?
I can't say it's rotten, man. Like, and it's nothing to do with being a kid, and I know I've said before, I can't say this is rotten because I liked it when I was a child. But actually having watched it again, it's no rotten. It doesn't deserve to be, I don't think. It's an absolute masterclass in cinema puppetry and practical effects. It's fun. It encapsulates the turtles quite well. Everything looks great. People are good in it. You know, it has a Turtles vibe.
Yeah.
Everything. I think it was good. And
Yeah.
I think it's fresh for that reason. Them reasons.
I think those are reasonable reasons.
What about you?
I also think it is fresh.
Yep.
I feel like it's quite basic in its story, but I quite like that.
Yeah.
I feel like hero movies, whether super or otherwise these days, are very convoluted.
You're talking about Marvel, eh?
I am thinking Marvel, yeah. And I think for this movie, you can, like, the story is pretty solid.
Aye.
It's not overly complicated. You're not going to get lost. And it's just good fun with some good stunt scenes and some good quips.
And silliness and goofiness. And like I think, honestly, the one gripe I have about this movie is that last fight sucks.
Yeah.
It's so anticlimactic. The rest of the film's pretty good. The fight scene just before that's pretty good. And they come up against Shredder and it's just a damp squib.
It is a bit of a damp squib. But he does get crushed by a bin lorry in the end.
But yeah, cool. So fresh, both fresh, all round.
Fresh all round.
Like, it's one of these things, like, and I'm talking about the Van Helsing thing again. With that movie, I was like, oh, you know, I like it for these reasons and stuff. But honestly, looking back, if we were to do Van Helsing again now, I'm not sure I would have said it was fresh.
Interesting.
I think it is rotten. I think it is. But it doesn't stop, even though I know it's rotten, it doesn't stop me enjoying it. And so therefore, at the time, that we were quite early on doing this, it was only a few episodes ago, but I felt like when I did that, I was like, oh, it's fresh. But like, when you're thinking about it, I know it's a rotten film, but does it stop me enjoying it? No, really. But then does that mean it's fresh to me then because I enjoyed it? That's the kind of conflict I have when we decide these things.
That's the logic I'm going for.
Did I enjoy it and did I like a lot of things about it? Then it's fresh.
Kinda, yeah.
Aye. Well, I think that's what more people should do, is to try to analyse everything. I like to think that we hit the middle ground here of, you know, a wee bit of analysis and chatting about things, but also just being like, I really like this about it.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like this. And that's what we do.
That's kind of where we're going from.
Aye. But yeah, it's a hard one to decide at times, you know.
Yeah. It's hard to really pin your colours to the mast. But we try our best.
We do.
And would you watch it again?
Yeah.
I would also watch it again.
We watched it not that long ago before this.
Yeah.
So we obviously would watch it again.
Yeah. It's not bad.
So, Kat, do you want to let everyone know what next week's movie is?
I'm very excited. It is Twilight.
It's Twilight.
It's so bad. It's deliciously bad.
Do you know, that might be the saving grace for me. In that I know I've seen memes, I've seen reels recently, and they suggest that, you know, this film is just the pits.
Oh, it's dross, but in the best way.
But I might think it's fresh, so let's not just say right away, because I've not watched it yet.
Yeah, you've never seen it.
But no, like, so I don't really remember a lot. I might have seen bits and bobs on the TV and stuff. But, you know, I know that you enjoyed these films a couple of years ago, and a wee sort of binge.
I did. I'd avoided it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that on next week when we talk about the movie. But
absolutely,
anyway,
something to look forward to.
That's it. You've got a bit of cheeky vamp action, but unfortunately, you know, I'm not sure, a bit of tweeny bopper vamp action, perhaps.
And Robert Pattinson with a lot of hair.
Yeah, do you know what the class thing is? And we can talk about this more next week. He's actually good.
I know.
Probably not in this, though. Anyway, guys, we hope you had a radical time.
Cowabunga!
It's been righteous.
Bossa Nova!
Bossa Nova! But one thing to say is that if you want to suggest a rotten film to us, or if you want to, you know, chat to us, or just say hiya, or tell us about something that you thought about a film that we've spoke about so far, you can email us at rankrottenpod@gmail.com. That's rankrottenpod@gmail.com.
And if you want to contact us on the social medias, it's at rankrottenpod on Instagram.
And on Instagram, we're putting up weekly clips of the upcoming episode. It's like a wee reel that's normally about a minute long, and it's a wee clip of the episode that's coming on the Friday. Those are also going up onto YouTube, where you can follow us as well if you want. You can subscribe on the YouTube channel, and all the episodes of Rank Rotten are going up onto YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Because some people like to listen to podcasts there. Thanks to those that are listening to us as well. We really appreciate it. We'd like to grow our wee movie club a wee bit more and get some engagement and things if possible. So, you know, doing these ratings and things and sending in messages is kind of what we need to help our wee movie club grow to more people, so we can get all our little movie dorks together in one place.
Yeah, we can join our club.
That's right. Enjoy our terrible movie club.
Yay!
But as we've discovered, they're not terrible.
They are not.
But then something tells me next week's will be. Thanks very much, and tatty bye.
Bye.